with talks on how to save the GNU as the likes of Action SA and the EFF wait on the sidelines in case they're asked to join the coalition. Babalondenza reports.
Dean McPherson is one of 6 DA ministers in President Ramaphosa's cabinet and one of the most visible in his portfolio that's tasked with building South Africa and also makes him the government landlord. But McPherson says he serves at the behest of his party and the president and will continue putting in the work hours until either the ANC or the DA decides on what happens in the GNU.
Those will be determined by the leaders of my party and I'm sure leaders of other parties. And our leader of the DA, John Steenhuisen, was emphatic that the party would like to stay in the GNU.
He says South Africa is at a critical juncture and any decision must be well considered.
I think the collaborative efforts between the parties in the GNU is crucially important for South Africa.
While the DA's federal executive is still to decide on its future, the ANC's National Working Committee is expected to meet today to reflect on what happened last week in the GNU. Babalondenza, Eyewitness News.
Former Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane says she's being politically persecuted after the Legal Practice Council announced it wants to strip her of her advocate title. The council says this is related to her impeachment by Parliament after being found guilty of misconduct and incompetence. The council is a statutory body with the dual purpose of regulating the legal profession and protecting members of the public from misconduct by legal practitioners. Mkhwebane, who is now a member of the MK party, says she plans on opposing this.
I'll say they're very much disappointing of them. They are also playing into politics and continuous persecution because firstly it was published by Karen Mon on Twitter. I have not been informed.
Mkhwebane says this is not going to dent her work.
It's just a title. They will never take my LLB, my other qualifications, and I have excelled in my work. If they are thinking that possibly because of the removal as public protector, I mean first public protector to have 3 clean audits, and out of the 400 plus cases are finalized, only less than 40 were set aside.
13 illegal immigrants have been arrested following Valumkoti operations in Mpumalanga. The group was handcuffed in Laws Creek, where the suspects were found to be in the country illegally. The group, aged between 18 and 43, is expected to appear before the Barberton Magistrates Court today. Police spokesperson Paul Nonyane.
The acting provincial commissioner of the South African Police in Mpumalanga, Major General Dr. Zef Mkhwanazi, has uploaded the members assigned for Operation Valumkoti for their resilience as they continue to make a huge impact in dismantling illegal mining activities in the province.
And the British woman at the center of a Netflix documentary on how she allegedly duped her son and left him in debt to fund her champagne-sipping lifestyle has been charged with fraud in Singapore. According to the BBC, the alleged victims of Dion, Mary Hannah, filed police reports after watching the film. They accused the Singapore residents of taking their money with the promise that they will be reimbursed through her inheritance from Brunei's royal family. The ploy is similar to the one she allegedly used against London pastry chef Graham Horningold after she contacted him in 2020 claiming to be his long-lost mother. Hannah, who was charged with 5 counts of fraud, appeared before a district court on Saturday via video link and was seen lying on a hospital bed. She's accused of deceiving 3 men in Singapore and France into transferring money to her accounts, claiming the funds were needed as legal fees and for the opening of new bank accounts. Gold is trading at $3,029.36 an ounce. The rand is at 19.34 to the dollar, 24.96 to the pound, 21.28 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $63.80 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N1 South. This is between Rivonia and Winnie Mandela Drive. While traveling on Winnie Mandela Drive in the Fourways area, delays between Witkoppen Road and Leslie Avenue.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 21 and 24 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Dean McPherson says he's not fazed by the uncertainty in Cabinet and will continue working despite GNU tensions and threats of a split.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Seven minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, happy Monday. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela show. It's wonderful to have you with us here on 702. I hope you're well this morning. I hope you had a great, restful, or relaxing, or fun weekend. I hope this weekend filled you with a lot of joy. Hello, hello, hello. If you're watching us on YouTube, I'm waving at you. Remember, you can now catch this show live on YouTube. You can listen and watch. It's very easy. Go to the 702 YouTube page if you want to watch how this show unfolds in studio. We kick off the first hour of the show with the 702 open line on 011-883-0702. Your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. It was another busy sporting weekend. Hey, did you watch the Formula One Grand Prix yesterday? Max Verstappen winning his first Formula One race this season. Or maybe you watched the Liverpool game versus Fulham. It was painful to watch Liverpool being defeated like that by Fulham. Congratulations to the queen of the Two Oceans Marathon, Gerda Steyn, who won the women's elite race on Saturday at the Two Oceans Ultra Marathon in Cape Town. She has won it, I think it's the sixth time now. Yeah, sixth time that Gerda Steyn wins the Two Oceans Ultra Marathon. Congrats to Lesotho's Khwarahlani Siutluadi for winning the men's race. Did you run the Two Oceans? How was it? A number of friends who were running it were telling me on Friday that the weather was a bit warm. They were worried about how it was going to look on Saturday morning, but it seemed like it was perfect. Please share with us how the run was in Cape Town this weekend. Give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note. There were protests across the world this weekend against US President Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Did I just hear you say co-president Elon Musk? Millions of people took part in the protests across all the 50 states in America. But there were also protests outside of the US. They were protesting against what some organizers described as a hostile takeover and attacks on American rights and freedoms. But Donald Trump is not fazed at all, even on his decision on tariffs. As we discussed them last week, Elon Musk doesn't seem to agree with him on tariffs. His own deputy, J.D. Vance, wasn't in support of this policy in 2017. And now, shame, he has to sit there and applaud it, even when he has on many occasions disagreed that this is the way that America should go. But we need to now pay attention to how countries are going to be responding. I was surprised to hear on Eyewitness News this morning that the Zimbabwean president has announced his government will suspend all tariffs that are levied on goods originating from the United States. So he says that this is intended to facilitate the expansion of American exports within the Zimbabwean market, and while simultaneously promoting the growth of Zimbabwean exports that are destined for the United States. And I see that there are some Zimbabweans that are pretty excited about this decision. They believe that this is going to bring the prices down for them. But the question really is, how is Trump going to respond? He did say last week that the tariffs are negotiable. So if the countries cut their own tariffs on the US, he's prepared to lower the duties. So will he lower or cut these tariffs on Zimbabwe, seeing that President Emmerson Mnangagwa has decided to take this drastic step to appease him? And what impact will it make, seeing that, I mean, the Zimbabwean government doesn't really do a lot of business with the US. I think in 2024, the total goods trade between the United States and Zimbabwe amounted to just over $100 million US. US exports to Zimbabwe were valued at just over $43 or so million. Why? And you look at Zimbabwean exports to America totaling just over $60 million. And I wonder what you make of how Zimbabwe has responded to these tariffs. I think a lot of countries will respond differently. China has already responded and say, well, we're going to fight back. The European Union said, we are going to also fight back and issue tariffs against the US, even though Donald Trump, I saw yesterday, he was saying, Europe is coming to the table now. There are countries, though, that want to negotiate. Speaking of tariffs, did you hear what the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, said over the weekend?
We did receive a letter from business, indeed, and I think we've seen the market's reaction to a government without the DA. R1 trillion wiped off the JSE just as a result of a market reaction to a potential that the DA would no longer be in government.
R1 trillion wiped off the JSE just because there's a potential the DA may not be included in the GNU. Are you kidding me? Because of the fears that the DA could be out of the GNU, R1 trillion wiped off from the JSE. You know, it's so embarrassing sometimes how the rand and the markets are weaponized to legitimize or pressurize, in this context, the inclusion of the DA in the GNU. Because that, to an extent, speaks to also the lack of understanding of global financial markets by these politicians. Because if there was an understanding, there would be a realization, even by John Steenhuisen, that the losses on the JSE are a result of far more consequential things. Recession fears, there's trade wars now, and these tariffs that were announced by Donald Trump last week. That's what sparked a JSE meltdown, not just this potential that the DA may be excluded from the GNU. But that's what politicians want you to believe. And if you don't do your own research and you do your own reading, you're going to fall for the scam. At 10 o'clock, we're going to get an update on two important stories that we shouldn't dare get our eyes off. The investigation into that alleged rape of 7-year-old Cwecwe and the escape of illegal mining Kingpin Tiger. The police will come and tell us how far their investigations are on these two crucial cases. We're going to be doing this a lot because we sometimes make the mistake of when the police say, we're investigating, and we let them go. But we have a responsibility to constantly go back to them and ask, come, give us an update. We have to put pressure. Because in some of these instances, they just announce an investigation to shut you and I up. Well, it's not going to work. We're going to constantly go to them. Even when they tell us there's no update, come on air and tell the listeners that you initiated an investigation and months later or years later, you somehow still don't have an update. That's what we're going to be doing a lot over the next coming weeks. At 10:30, we're going to do our second installment of the series we started last week about the afterlife. What do you believe happens after this life? We're going to look at what different belief systems say about the afterlife. You are more than your physical body. I said this last week, that the human experience is more than just this body that we carry. And I think we should be curious enough to ask ourselves questions about parts of our human experience, whether it's our spirit or it's our soul, right? Some people believe in eternal life. Some people believe in reincarnation. What do you believe happens after life, and why do you hold that belief? Last week, we looked at what different Christian denominations believe about the afterlife. Today, we're going to focus on what Islam teaches about the afterlife. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our Family Matters feature, and today we're discussing navigating the world as an adult with special needs. There are adults out there with special needs that require additional support or accommodations due to their physical or mental disabilities. In fact, a few weeks ago, you remember we discussed parenting a child with special needs on our Family Matters feature, and we received messages from adults with special needs who were explaining how difficult it is for them. So we thought we would do a follow-up conversation, and this time focus on adults with special needs and how they're navigating the world. That's what's coming up on our Family Matters feature at 11 o'clock. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
Good morning, Clemmy. Happy Monday to you, your producers, and the 702 listeners. This is Flores from the Western Cape. I think we are in for a beautiful, exciting F1 race this year. Strapping guys. Max Verstappen, all he showed the McLarens was his backside. And I said it before and I'll say it again. These three are the guys who are going to go in for the kill. Yeah. Well done to Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton, but Piastri, Norris, and Max Verstappen, those three are going to dominate the podium. Wow. Wow. Construction is going to the McLarens, and Verstappen is going to be a champion again. Have a good job. Bye-bye.
Morning, Clement. It's all here. So, I did my first 2 ocean this weekend. No, everything was fine. The weather was good. But, the hills, they show me flames. Yeah, but I managed to do 5:28. It was my first take. So, when I come again next day, that's where I will be chasing 5:28. Thank you.
Look, Mr. Manyathela, I'm listening to Stanley's head regarding the issue of rent. You see, this thing of rent, I think, is used against us black people. So it means then the rent must impose decisions on us to say who's supposed to lead us as South Africans. So they've got their preference. It means then JSC, their politicians. So I think we, as South Africans, we need to take that notion of Vulam Koyan to say, this rand must fall, then we will pick it up. Let it fall, then we will pick it up, because honestly speaking, we cannot be held at ransom because of these people who are in. Let them take their investment and go wherever they want to go. Then we'll recover and recoup ourselves, because you cannot be held hostage by this JSC things and people with their investment. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, that obviously would be reckless for us to take that position of let them just go, we'll pick up the rand. That's not the way to go. But equally so, it's disingenuous of politicians to want to weaponize the market reaction and the rand just so that they force their way in government. That's ridiculous. It is ridiculous that now there must be fear over, oh my God, we're scared to even take these decisions because, what if the rand reacts? But also in this case, we're not even talking about the rand that's reacted to the GNU. John Steenhuisen is being disingenuous. Or it's either that, or he simply doesn't understand global financial markets. Because he wants to claim that just because there's a possibility the DA cannot be in the GNU, 1 trillion rand wiped off the JSC. Go speak to any economist and ask them if that is factual, if that is true, that because of what happened with the GNU and the ructions in the GNU last week, that's why 1 trillion rand was wiped off the JSC. That's not really the case. Either he's being disingenuous because he knows the truth, he knows what the markets were largely responding to, or he's actually taking advantage of the fact that there are some people who follow him who don't read. Which is why I said earlier, if you don't read and you do your own research, you're going to fall victim to this. Because that's what politicians do. They lie a lot. So be careful, my friends. We need to do our own reading. We need to do our own research. Otherwise, we're going to fall to these scams by the politicians. I just think that we're living under interesting times, When you look at the world, last year we were talking about, was it last year or 2 years ago? We were having a conversation about World War III. Like, are we on the precipice of World War III? And now you see the global realignment. It's just so incredible that in the next 20 years, our children are not going to believe that this is what we lived through. And I wonder, what are those interesting times that you have lived through in a global context? And did you know at the time that you were living through defining and historical times? I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic, that was a defining historical moment that will be told for decades and decades and decades to come. We'll go back to that moment. Well, some of you may mention maybe the global recession, 2008, 2009. Maybe some of you lived through that. Did you know at the time? So there are many other global events that have happened that I wonder if you've lived through them. And did you know that those experiences would be defining, and would be talking about them and referencing them in years and decades to come? Let me know on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Israel has admitted to mistakenly killing 15 aid workers, thanks to this video that has now emerged that tells a different story to the one that the Israeli army told as the reason why the aid workers were killed in Gaza. Now, if you missed the story, listen to this. There are 15 paramedics and emergency responders who were shot dead. This was in March, on the 23rd of March. They were shot dead by the Israeli soldiers. And after they were shot dead, 15 of them, they were buried in a shallow grave. Their bodies were found a week later by officials from the United Nations and the Palestinian Red Crescent. Another man, my understanding is that is still missing. You get that? These are aid workers in Gaza. Paramedics and emergency responders. The Israeli defense comes, kills them, 15 of them, buries them in a shallow grave. The military then comes back. So once these bodies are found, the military comes and says, well, we opened fire on vehicles of these aid workers because they were approaching us in a suspicious manner in the dark, and they didn't have lights on or markings. That was their explanation, which you probably pause and think, that makes sense, shame. Maybe they were worried that maybe those are Hamas militants who were in those vehicles and posing as aid workers. That's what the Israeli defense said. These people were driving these cars in the dark. Their lights were off. There were no markings. That's why we opened fire. Except that's not true. That is a story that they stuck by until a video has emerged. There's a video now that has been recovered from the mobile phone of one of the dead men. It's been published now. You can go check it out on social media. CNN has posted it, I think Sky News, Al Jazeera, it's everywhere. And that video shows emergency workers in their uniforms. It shows these emergency workers in vehicles that are clearly marked. These ambulances are clearly marked. And they are fire trucks. And their lights are on. That's not what the Israeli Defense Force said. They said these people were coming in the dark, lights are off, their cars are not even marked. So that was suspicious for us. That's why we opened fire. But a video contradicts their story. You can see that these people are wearing uniform. You can see in the video that the ambulances are marked, their fire trucks are marked, their lights are on. And yet these people were killed by these soldiers. And the IDF now says, we mistakenly identified this convoy of aid workers as a threat. That's it. They originally claimed that even their own investigation, because they claimed to have done an investigation, they said our investigation found that the vehicles did not have any headlights or emergency signals and were therefore targeted as they looked suspicious. And they were also asked about why the bodies were buried in a mass grave. And the IDF said, we do this as a regular practice to prevent wild dogs and other animals from eating the corpses. And the IDF could not explain why the ambulances were also buried. It's just so shocking that this is not the first time that the Israeli Defense Force, quote unquote, mistakenly kills people there in Gaza. It's actually quite sad. And what's sad about this is that nothing is going to happen to Israel. The United Nations will continue to condemn this, but nothing will happen. There will be no accountability whatsoever. In fact, do a simple thing now. Go on your Google now and check how many times the Israeli Defense Force has mistakenly killed people in Gaza and what happened afterwards. Just Google Israel apologizes for killing people in Gaza or mistakenly killing people and check how many stories come up. Remember there was a time when the IDF chief apologized, this was sometime last year, for an airstrike that left 7 humanitarian workers dead. Remember that?
I want to be very clear. The strike was not carried out with the intention of harming WCK aid workers. This incident was a grave mistake. Israel is at a war with Hamas, not with the people of Gaza. We are sorry for the unintentional harm to the members of WCK.
That was an apology last year, but that's not the only one. There was a time that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu acknowledged that a tragic mistake had been made. This was sometime in May last year, after an Israeli airstrike in the southern Gaza city of Rafah set fire to a tent camp housing displaced Palestinians and killed at least 45 people. And this was the response from Benjamin Netanyahu.
In Rafah, we already evacuated about 1 million non-combatant residents, and despite our utmost effort not to harm non-combatants, something unfortunately went tragically wrong. We are investigating the incident and will reach conclusions because this is our policy.
Yeah, the sad thing is that we live in a world where it's animal farm. Even the US, Joe Biden, when he was president last year, at some point criticized the Israeli Defense Force for these mistaken killings that are happening in Gaza. But did that stop the US from sending arms to Israel to fight in Gaza? No, it didn't. It didn't stop them from sending military packages, I should say. The United Nations came out and said, this is unacceptable. What do you think that's going to do? Nothing. What we're witnessing, where aid workers are now falling victim, is actually quite sad.
Morning, Clement and 702 listeners. I think the IDF terrorists, not only did they kill the aid workers, but they also buried their ambulances. They had bulldozers that buried the dead bodies with the ambulances. Now, if that was a mistake, as they claim, they wouldn't have buried the ambulances and what, because those should have been used for further investigation. So they were trying to hide their criminal deeds, but I mean, it's not news. That's what they're doing all the time. Thank you.
It's 9:30. Let's get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Fiso, hi.
Thanks, Clements. Good morning. The SACP has called on its alliance partner, the ANC, to kick the DA out of the Government of National Unity Coalition for voting against the national budget. Relations between the two biggest parties within the GNU have reached a boiling point after the DA turned down the vote to pass the budget last week. This led to the ANC approaching other parties like Action SA to get the budget over the line. The Jocelyn Smith trial is resuming today, with legal teams arguing for the court to decide whether confession statements made by the accused can be used as evidence. Jocelyn's mother, Kelly Smith, and her co-accused, Jacqueline Apollos and Stefano van Rijn, are on trial for kidnapping and human trafficking related to the child's disappearance. The defense argues that the confessions were made under duress, citing the accused were tortured to admit their involvement in the crime. And Boeing is poised to face a jury trial today over the fatal 2019 crash of an Ethiopian Airlines 737 MAX plane plane. This is the first civil case related to the disaster to reach court. The Chicago trial, expected to last 2 weeks, was to feature 2 plaintiffs who lost family members in the calamity. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you. How are we looking on the roads?
Well, Clement, things have settled down pretty nicely throughout 702 land and no major delays or serious accidents have been reported at this hour. However, just look out for those faulty traffic lights in Edenville at Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeek. Traffic lights are also not working in Alex at Marlborough Drive and Far East Bank, as well as in Bryanston at Winnie Mandela Drive and Sloan. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
8 out of 10 radio listeners suffer from CAR, or car advertising on repeat. Symptoms include fatigue, anxiety, and confusion. With so many car ads coming at you on your daily commute, buying or selling a car can feel overwhelming. But there is a cure.
Cars.co.za. Whatever car you want to buy or sell, cut through the and just go to Cars.co.za and let's find what moves you. Cars.co.za.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
The president was in Soweto. He said that they will not be dictated to by business. They have their own interests. They respect those. But ultimately, the ANC will need to make a decision as to how to proceed. That is not a positive sign, is it?
Of course, President Ramaphosa is really in a tight corner because if he gives in to these demands of the market forces, again, he will be playing into the hands of his political enemies. You know, people like Jacob Zuma. They will say, yeah, but we told you so.
That National Working Committee meeting taking place later today. Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast is a political analyst.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Dreaming of your next getaway? Whether it's a sun-soaked beach escape, adventure-packed tour, or luxury cruise, Flight Centre is your go-to for travel. From flights and hotels to tours and cruises, we've got it all. Plus travel insurance for peace of mind. If you want the best deals, you can save more by taking advantage of our Bundle Plus Save offer. Plan your trip today at your nearest Flight Centre store or visit flightcentre.co.za. Flight Centre, your centre for travel.
Simply Asia is giving away 4 tickets to Thailand. But who will you take with? Let's hear what is being said in South African homes.
I don't know, Gerald. I love Auntie Janine, but she talks so much. Imagine her on a 12-hour flight.
But what about Uncle Louis? He did pay for our wedding. Darling, which child are we leaving behind?
Obviously the one who complains the most.
Hey, that's not fair.
Whoever you pick, just make sure you enter the Simply Asia Songkran competition. T's and C's apply.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Busi, what is it that you're worried about? Are you worried about the DA leaving, or are you worried about the EFF or MK coming into government?
We are worried about the stability of the South African economy. We are worried about government not being able to deliver what it actually needs to deliver.
Busi Mavuso, CEO at Business Leadership South Africa.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show on 702 with Stephen Grootes is proudly brought to you by ABSA CIB. Honored by the 2025 Salter Awards. Your story matters. ABSA is a registered FSP.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
25 minutes before 10 o'clock. This is the 702 open line. Your calls on 011-883-0702. You can send your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. Let's start with your WhatsApps.
Morning, Clem. Tato here. I am not so shocked by the state of Israel. I'm more shocked by you being shocked at what has happened with these aid workers. I mean, it's right up the alley, what happened. In fact, I'd like to say shame on the world for watching what's been happening in that area of the world for the last 60, 70 years, and nothing happened. Land slowly being occupied and nothing happening. People being murdered, nothing happening. 200 plus journalists have died over the last year and a half, nothing happening. Aid workers have been murdered, the ambulance buried, which is surely a war crime, but nothing will happen. So actually, shame on the world. Any other state do this, they'd be sanctioned right up the yazoo. Shame on you.
That's true. That is absolutely true. We are witnessing what's happening in the Middle East and the multilateral, because, yeah, it's shame on the world, right? Because the world, you could argue, are represented or is represented through this multilateral organization, the United Nations, which I honestly think it has fundamentally failed. It has been useless in as far as protecting the human rights of people who live in countries that are not powerful, with the crimes that are perpetrated against them by countries that are aligned to powerful countries in the United Nations Security Council. Because what rules there is the brotherhood, it's allyship. Doesn't matter what you are doing, whether it's immoral, whether it's a genocide, whether it's inhuman. The fact that I am friends with you and you are our greatest ally, I can protect you. I am not going to vote for crucial reports, crucial resolutions that are going to see to it that there's justice, or that are going to see to it that there's protection of human rights. That is what's happening now in the United Nations Security Council. You've got the big 5 countries that can veto anything. So yeah, I agree with you, Tato. Shame on the world. But also shame on the United Nations. You know, after World War II, to avoid us going through that path again, that is why these multilateral organizations were formed. Because we don't want to go through that path. We're an evolved world that must find different ways to raise issues, to have conflict with each other. And yes, the United Nations realizes that you can't say there's never going to be war, but even in war, there are rules. And Israel has violated the rules of war. How many times? And what's happened to them? I don't know. And yes, I am shocked, Tato, because I can't rationalize this anymore. It still shocks me. And if it happens again tomorrow, I'm probably going to be just as shocked, because I really struggle to figure out, what is it? What is it about this country that those in power, those at the United Nations can't do much? Even the United States itself always proclaims Israel is our greatest ally, which is fine. But even your friend, when your friend does wrong, when your brother does wrong, you have a responsibility to call them out. And now you've got Donald Trump saying, yeah, we want to turn that Gaza into a resort. Those people must go be refugees somewhere else. Going to Jordan and going to Egypt will turn that place. It's going to be so beautiful. Can you imagine if any other president had said that? Oh, I'm just going to take over this place and make it. Can you imagine those comments? Imagine our president says that about Mozambique. Oh, even forget Mozambique. Says that about France. Says that about Madagascar. Whatever country. That would be a scandal. There would be condemnation left, right, center. Oh, but Trump can say it. Oh, but Israel can go and violate international law. They can go violate the rules of war. They can go kill people that are innocent, that are aid workers, and just claim, oh, sorry, it was a mistake. And then they'll lie about it first. Oh, these people were coming to us suspiciously. Video images. Oh, sorry, it was a mistake. I'm just tired of hearing Israel apologize for killing innocent civilians, innocent workers.
Good morning, Clement. On the Israeli issue, I think language matters, and I think we need to stop saying mistakenly killed people, especially with the journalists in Gaza. It's always targeted. I mean, last week there were 2 journalists who the IDF said were had lied and said were Hamas operatives and had said were being targeted. And eventually they did kill them. Last night again, 2 more journalists sleeping in a tent in Gaza, bombed, dead. It's not mistaken, it's targeted. Only when they get found out do they say it's mistaken. We need to call it what it is. It's targeted killings, and it's breaking international law on purpose. Thank you, Tsepo Soweto.
Koketso, you are calling us from the East Rand. Good morning.
Yes, morning, Clement.
Sure, Koketso. I'm well. I've been asking what interesting times you have lived through in a global context, and did you actually know that those would be defining and historical? What is it for you?
I mean, I think for me, Clement, is like what you're mentioning, right, about like currently we're living through a genocide. So just to give you context, when I was on holiday in the Czech Republic, I went with my mother to one of the Holocaust camps, the death camps by the Czech Republic. And we just toured it, just to see, because I took history in school. So I wanted to see, like, how could people actually have allowed the Holocaust to happen? Let me go there to get a better understanding. And I'm telling you, Clement, going there, it was just so grisly. It's how the camp is structured, how people were taken off, mercilessly shot, rounded up, killed, innocent people, right? And for me, it's similar to like what's happening now, like where, you look what's happening now in the Middle East, right? But people just carry on with life as if it's just normal, People will get horrified for like a bit, and then they get loud, almost like into like a sense of just, I don't know, some weird form of normalcy, and then they carry on with their lives, right, while this is happening. So it gave me that context to understand. So, when something like this that's so horrific is happening, we almost get lulled into just forgetting that it's happening. So look at how now this thing has been happening. It's nearly 2 years now that it's been happening. In October, it will be 2 years. But just look at how, like, nothing is happening. People are just carrying on with their lives, and nothing is shifting, nothing is changing. And it's really, really disturbing. But I think for me, it gives me that appreciation of how people could have allowed, like, evil systems to prevail, right? Like slavery, colonialism, apartheid for so long, and almost like normalizing it, where they don't see anything wrong, right? So, that thing of, as I said to you with the Holocaust, it gave me that context to say this is actually how good people could have allowed like such evil to prevail, because they were almost like lulled into like, I don't know, a form of normalcy, weird,
and there's some countries that could have spoken out. Here's a challenge though, Koketso. The challenge now is when you have countries that are speaking out against what is happening, now they get punished. Like, look at us now. South Africa goes to the ICJ. There's countries that go to the ICC. Now the US says, how dare you? If you really want to continue trading with us, if you want to keep AGOA, if you want us to continue giving you aid, then you better start rethinking your foreign policy in as far as that war in the Middle East is concerned. So that's where it goes now. It's no longer that we're saying people are quiet. When people are speaking out, now they get punished for it.
Yeah, but remember, Clement, even in the early days of apartheid, right, people were labeled terrorists for fighting an unjust system. So by the powers that be. So it's not surprising that at first they will see it as you're this terrorist or this person who is, in essence, that's why they say one person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist. Because it's just all about who is in charge of the narrative, the prevailing narrative at the time. That's what's so tragic and sad about it.
Koketso in the East Rand, thank you so much for your thoughts. Wella, you're calling us from Reimsach. You want to talk about the president and the business community. Hi.
Hi, Clement. Clement, I've been reading a lot of articles about various sectors of our society pleading for the continuation, obviously, of the GNU. But there's certain undertones that make me uncomfortable, and I think we must call them out because they are very subtle. For starters, it seems to me that competence is a skin color in this country. The exit of a party is going to lead to the destruction of this country. Those are the undertones that keep on coming in various ways. I've been reading reports, people saying, the presence of this particular party has injected competence, as if their exit, there won't be competence, there will be large-scale looting, corruption, etc. I'm very curious as well as to whether when the DA came into the DAU, has there been a gain of 1 trillion that will be lost when they exit? You know what I mean? I'm very curious. If you were to measure for these 8 months, did the JSE go up by 1 trillion or more? And now when they exit, oh no, the blacks are going to run the country. Oh, we are so dead. One also needs to also question is what growth really has happened, even in the times when we had growth in this country in the Thabo Mbeki era. From what I understand, we're not building new factories that create growth. What's happening is that people are buying shares. Shares are moving between owners in the JSE. I'm yet to see really if there's been really trust by outside investors and build new capacity, new factories, real growth that can attract our people to be in jobs rather than the share price increasing and you are buying shares from another person and say that's growth. What are we protecting in this country exactly? And I think those are the questions maybe people in your space would, you are in a privileged position to explore properly. What will really happen if they exit? Clearly, the increase in that, yes, albeit significant and we don't want it, but it's not the reason why they voted against the budget. It's because of exclusionist policies that they want.
Yeah, they were using it as a negotiating tool. And we've done that, Wella. We've had those conversations already on the show. I'm happy to go put up some links to the podcast. But I think you're raising some important points. The business community has now returned to the president because they are concerned. In fact, listen to what the president said, because this weekend he responded to that. He was asked a question by journalists. By the way, I should give a credit to the president. Like he does a lot of Q&As when he is out at events, whether it's government events or ANC events. He takes an opportunity to come out, stand there and take questions, even those that are unrelated to what he's there to do. And I think that is really credit to the president, because we always often complain about him not making time to engage with journalists. And yes, I do think that family meetings it's not enough to just have him speak to us. Even when he makes these announcements, we must have an opportunity to engage with him. Journalists must have more opportunities to engage with the president. But there's just something I've really observed on how he's actually been responding to questions, even that are questions outside of what he's there to do. And that is really helpful because it helps us understand where his thinking is at as the number one citizen. Here's how he responded to a question about the letter that was sent by the business community to him.
And I can say that business does not dictate what happens. One in government does not dictate what happens in the ANC that I lead. We take our own decisions based on our considerations of everything that will advance the interests of our people. But of course, like any other citizen, they are entitled, as any citizen is entitled, to express their views, their wishes, and their fears. And all of us here as South Africans, we have views and fears and aspirations. So they too are entitled to do so. But in the end, I want it to be clear that the ANC will not be influenced by what business says. We are principally influenced by what our people say. And so we are not under pressure from business or whoever. If we are under any pressure, it is pressure that comes from our people and our people as a whole, not only ANC members. And the pressure that comes from our people is about poverty, it's about inequality and unemployment. And those are the issues that influence our decisions. And so therefore we have to heed what our people are saying. As regards what is happening in the United States, we have noted and we have seen some of those demonstrations, and these are matters that are happening in the United States. And we will therefore not be opining on what happens in other countries.
That's the president responding to the question about what the business community said to him in that letter, that if we have a lot to lose as a country if the GNU collapses. Someone actually reminded me of a conversation I had with Aaron Motsoaledi a few months ago on Face the Nation that involves the business community. This is what Aaron Motsoaledi says, the health minister.
I was there in that meeting when they told me, him point blank, that after the meeting he must announce that we are stopping the implementation of NHI.
Who told him that?
The BUSA, Business Unit South Africa.
But who tells the president what to do?
Exactly. And he was not very happy with that. He was very upset because they said they want him to stop and they negotiated, so you can't.
I mean, imagine BUSA, Business Leadership, Business Unity South Africa, in a meeting with the head of state about NHI, and they tell, well, on account of Aaron Motsoaledi, they tell the president point blank, you are going to leave this meeting and you're going to go and announce that NHI is out. You tell a president that after a meeting that's supposed to find common ground on the issue? That's basically what Aaron Motsoaledi was saying. What do you think gives, if really this is what happened, what do you think gives the business community that confidence and authority to want to instruct the president what to do after a meeting and what position to take? So bizarre.
Simply Asia could be sending you and 3 friends to Thailand. Chopsticks Out Tiger is already on the prowl. And he can't wait to tag along. He's got his pool noodle ready for Songkran. Hurry, you don't want to lose your seat on that plane? Join the fun at Simply Asia by spending just 200 Rand in-store on our app or via delivery. Chopsticks might just swipe your ticket. So don't wait. T's and C's apply, ending May 31st.
Choose your health. Choose Clicks with a wide range of self-medication savings, such as Sinaterb nasal spray at 69.99 Rand, Amuco 600, 10 Everfescent tablets, 152 Rand, and Nexipraz OTC 20 milligrams at 14 tablets at 139 Rand. Try the new Opti Health supplement range, formulated with high potency ingredients to support your health and wellness needs. Choose your health. Choose Clicks. Feel good, pay less.
Timber, have you filed your business tax return?
Joe. With My Way Business Insurance, I get My Business Assist, which gives me loads of benefits. They assist in filing my taxes, so no long queues. Plus, I get tender notifications, marketing services, and more to help me elevate my hustle.
They do what?
Yebo. Thanks to My Way, now I have time to focus on the real deal, which is growing my business.
Move to My Way Business Insurance today and get covered to do business your way. Visit myway.co.za for a quote. My Business Assist is a value-added product. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
From juggling a million roles at once to keeping customer satisfaction on point, what makes one SME stand out above the rest? That's the question, right? Well, this week we get to find out as the 702 Small Business Awards, brought to you by MTN, announces the finalists on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa from 6 a.m. and 702 Drive with John Pellman from 3 p.m. Visit primemediaplus.com to find out more about the finalists in the 702 Small Business Awards, brought to you by MTN. T's and C's apply.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
It's 5 minutes now before 10 o'clock.
Clement, I'm shocked and horrified at what some people have to say about let the rand just drop and crash and we'll pick it up. Emotional reactions, not understanding what they're saying. Can I make a suggestion? Perhaps you should get a few economists to come do some talk shows to educate the listeners so that they can think and understand what the implications is of what they say and what they think. It's just shocking. I don't know where this country is going to go if that's the type of mentality that people have.
But are you shocked about John Steenhuisen as well? It's interesting that you get shocked by some listeners who, rightly so, you should be shocked when they say, this rand can't dictate, we'll pick it up. You're right, but why are you not talking about John Steenhuisen? Because that's how we started this conversation. Do you not think he needs to be educated about the financial markets, the global financial markets? Because he doesn't seem to understand it. He claims that R1 trillion wiped off the JSE solely because of the potential exclusion of the DA from the GNU? Is that someone who demonstrates an understanding of the markets? Or you're admitting that he's being disingenuous? He's trying to lie to South Africans and trying to weaponize the performance of the rand and the markets as they react to these fears of recession, to Donald Trump's tariffs. That's the context within which we saw the meltdown on the JSE. So maybe I should bring an economist, but that economist is not only teaching the listeners, that economist should also teach John Steenhuisen so he understands these global financial markets and their performance. It's 3 minutes before 10.
At 7:02,
We are proud of a lot of things
but none more than our connection to you.
because we know when we walk the talk,
We're never alone.
I had been waiting so long for UIF for 18 months, and Kabazela and John Perlman had somebody from UIF on. And you know what? I finally got paid, and I just want to say it's actually saved my life. So 702, thank you, and you reach far and wide to all people.
Every SMS,
voice note,
email,
phone call,
your every word leads to action.
that changes lives, changes minds, uplifts communities, and holds authority to account.
Together, we've turned dialogue into good deeds.
And promises into progress.
Yes, we did that. You and 702. So, stay tuned.
Because if this is how far we've come, imagine how much further we can go.
When we stick together, 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Get more for your car. We Buy Cars will come to you and buy you a ride wherever you are. Simply complete the form on webuycars.co.za for an offer. Your car could be worth more than you think. Looking for your next ride? Well, shop pre-loved vehicles on webuycars.co.za or any branch nationwide. Whatever you're buying or selling, visit We Buy Cars today.
Running a small business doesn't mean you face small problems. That's why you need Smart SME by Santam. It's tailor-made insurance built for small businesses. Even you, the plumber whose vehicle becomes a food truck on weekends, or you, the beautician, wearing many hats. We cover the all in small business. Visit santam.co.za or SMS Smart SME to 34852 to get a quote. Santam, this is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Doll, you know you can't tell us anything, hey? You realize we can see all these men bringing you gifts at all hours, right?
Sorry?
Sweetie, we know about your weakness for men in uniform.
Excuse me? Those men in uniform work for one cart, and they understand my needs. Michelle, they shop the entire mall for me, like Macro, Lint, Toy Kingdom, and more. Maybe you should download One Cart and get your needs delivered in 60 minutes.
702 was in conversation with Altron,
celebrating 60 years of solving real-world problems
and discussing their plans to rebuild
and re-energize Johannesburg through partnership
and collaboration.
Yeah, it's a real privilege. You know, I'm only the fourth CEO in the 60-year history of Altron. We transitioned, obviously, my predecessor, a well-known gentleman who now chairs Eskom, Tete Nyati, who we were also privileged to have with us last night. He really did that sort of professionalization of the business in 2017, moving from a family to the kind of business it is today. So I think it's really a great privilege for me to lead this business and to be part of this business that has stood, I guess, the ups and downs of both Joburg and the South African economy over the last 60 years.
Visit altron.com for more info.
Altron, a technology industry leader
since 1965.
It's 10 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu.
3 people have been shot and killed in Soweto in an attack that's caused traffic congestion. It's understood the victims were attacked in Mfulo Central this morning. The cause of the shooting is not yet known, and motorists have been urged to avoid the area and use alternative roads. JMPD spokesperson Xolani Fihla.
Law enforcement officials and emergency services are currently on scene, and motorists are urged to exercise extreme caution when driving in the vicinity of Mahalefelo Road in Mfulo Central, as vehicles are being diverted at Machaba Drive and Mageza Street.
ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has called for calm as the party is set to discuss the future of the GNU. The ANC's National Working Committee will meet today and discuss, among others, what to do with the DA and FF Plus who voted against the recently passed national budget. Yesterday, Ramaphosa spoke to media during a visit to his home branch, Ward 11 in Johannesburg. Thabiso Goba was there.
The ANC's National Working Committee will be tasked with deciding on whether to keep the current composition of the GNU or change it. Some ANC leaders have publicly stated there cannot be ministers and deputy ministers in the GNU that will be tasked with implementing a budget they don't support. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says whatever decision the party makes, it will take into account all the potential implications.
We are going to have cool heads. We are going to sit back and examine everything properly without being driven by emotions and without being driven by sectional interests. We will be driven by what is important for the people of South Africa.
This weekend, the DA reaffirmed its commitment to the GNU. Thabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, the SACP says its alliance partner, the ANC, must kick the DA out of the governing or Government of National Unity Coalition for voting against the budget. Relations between the two biggest parties in the GNU have reached a boiling point after the DA turned down the vote to pass the budget last week. This led to the ANC approaching other parties like Action SA to get the budget over the line. The DA has filed a legal appeal to stop a 1% VAT hike over the next 2 financial years that was outlined in the budget, which was passed by just 8 votes. SACP General Secretary Solima Paila says the DA's rejection of the budget shows that it doesn't care for the poor.
It's impossible that we can continue to work with them under this kind of arrangement. That's why we have called for their removal from the Government of National Unity. We do know that they will not leave voluntarily. So we need a decisive action, particularly from the ANC as the majority party in government, to make sure that it can remove the DA participation in the Government of National Unity.
Legal teams in the Jocelyn Smith trial are set to argue for the court to decide whether confession statements made by the accused can be used as evidence. Jocelyn's mother, Kelly Smith, and her co-accused, Jacqueline Apollos and Stefano van Rijn, are on trial for kidnapping and human trafficking related to the child's disappearance. The defense argues that the confession statements were made under duress, citing the accused were tortured to admit their involvement in the crime. The little girl went missing last year from her Middle Post home after she was last seen with Apollos. Carlo Peterson reports.
A trial within a trial for Judge Nathan Erasmus to decide whether confession statements made by Jacqueline Apollos and Stefano van Rijn can be used as evidence is set to continue in the Western Cape High Court, sitting in the Saldanha Bay Multipurpose Centre today. On Friday, Dr. Tanya Zimri testified about her observations when she examined van Rijn at Vredenburg Hospital on the 5th of March last year, a day after the alleged torture. Dr. Zimri told the court she observed healing abrasions on Van Rijn's shoulder, elbow and left wrist. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
And Boeing is poised to face a jury trial today over the fatal 2019 crash of an Ethiopian Airlines 737 MAX plane. This is the first civil case related to the disaster to reach court. The Chicago trial, expected to last 2 weeks, was to feature 2 plaintiffs who lost family members in the calamity. But one of the complaints was resolved in an out-of-court settlement yesterday. Barring another last-minute settlement, the trial will begin today with the selection of an 8-person jury. A deal could still be struck even while the trial is underway. Gold is trading at $3,029.36 an ounce. The rand is at 19.34 to the dollar, 24.96 to the pound, 21.28 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $63.80 a barrel.
While in Durban Deep Roodepoort area, there's still bumper-to-bumper traffic on Randfontein Road. That's between Collard Avenue and Miles Stalker. Look out for those faulty traffic lights in Edenvale. At Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck, traffic lights also not working in Alex at Marlborough Drive and Far East Bank.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 21 and 24 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: 3 people have been shot and killed in Soweto this morning in an attack that's caused traffic congestion.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
Seven minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela show on this Monday morning, the 7th day of April. Thank you so much for your WhatsApps, your calls on the 702 open line. At 10:30, remember, we're going to have the conversation on our second installment of the series that we started last week about the afterlife. How often do you think about your human experience beyond just your body? Because we eat, we exercise, there's so much consideration we give to our body, but is that the only thing that forms part of this human mysterious experience? There are other things, and I just worry that we're not paying as much attention to those, and I think we should. And maybe it starts with you being curious about things like your spirit or your soul, or what is there beyond just this body. Do you ever think about that? I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I've been reading a lot of books about that lately. And I really just want us to start these conversations that we never really talk about, that we always find so scary. I think that's part of the human experience, trying to discover, trying to seek answers, questioning. And this is just part of that. That's going to be at 10:30. We started a series last week looking at what different beliefs say about the afterlife. Last week we started by looking at the different denominations of Christianity and what they believe about the afterlife. Today we're going to be focusing on what Islam teaches about the afterlife. We'll look at Scientology, we'll look at African spirituality over the coming weeks. There's just a lot that we'll be reflecting on in as far as different belief systems are concerned about the afterlife. That's at 10:30. 9 minutes now after 10.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
So I want us to get an update about 2 important issues that we really shouldn't get our eyes off. There's an investigation into that alleged rape of a 7-year-old child in the Eastern Cape in Matatiele. You have seen protests for justice for Cwecwe, and the police have been investigating the matter. This is something that happened last year. I just want us to just hear from them how far that investigation is, and whether they've got some, possible successful leads they're following. I also want us to get an update on that illegal mining Kingpin Tiger. Remember when we spoke to the police the last time, I promised you that as often as I can, I'm going to bring them to come and give you an update, even if it's not much of an update. But I think that's important, because sometimes we make the mistake of just taking whatever the police tell us, whatever government tells us, oh, this is what we're investigating, and we let it be, when in fact we have a responsibility to go back to them and ask, how far is that going? And they have a responsibility to come and update you on that. So that's what we're going to be doing a lot. All of these things that are being investigated, or announcements that were made that we're going to be looking into this, we want to go back and find out, have you looked into that, and how far is that? Because some of these things take forever. Because also sometimes the investigators themselves feel like, what's the point? We're not making headways. We might as well not show any enthusiasm. But there are people on the other side who are waiting for justice. There are people on the other side who want to see the right thing done. So we've invited Brigadier Athlenda Mathe, who is the spokesperson for the National Police, to come and speak to us about these two important matters. I'm going to bring AfriForum as well, by the way, when we discuss the issue of Cwecwe. Brigadier Mathe, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
A very good morning to you and to your listeners.
Let's start with the illegal mining kingpin, Tiger. For some context here, listeners who may not know who Tiger is, this is a man that was involved in illegal mining. The police believe he's one of the kingpins. He was there in the Northwest when there was an operation by the SAPS, and basically he was just let go. When people were being arrested coming out of the mines, he emerged and just disappeared. To this day, we don't know where he is. Just like with Bushiri, we still don't know how that man escaped. We don't know where this kingpin that the police knew about him as he was coming out, where he is. So just take us back to the last thing I remember, Athlenda, is that you guys made some arrests. Some of the police officers were arrested. Where are we now?
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity, Clement. I can confirm that we had arrested 4 of our own. And following that arrest, we then removed those 4 members from that particular operation, and we appointed an investigating officer in terms of our disciplinary procedures. I can confirm that 2 are on suspension following the report that was received from the investigating officer who was dealing with the disciplinary matter. So 2 of them have been suspended and 2 are still at work, but they've been removed from the operation.
Okay, the two that have been suspended, I would imagine these are the ones that the investigation shows were more closer to this matter, and the 2 that are still at work, have they completely been absolved of any charges, or that must still happen in the court?
Well, I can't say much because the matter is still before court. The investigation as well is still ongoing. You will recall that we have not found Tiger. So I cannot say much because we wouldn't want to jeopardize the ongoing investigation and also the matter that is pending before court.
Okay, but the other 2, though, that are still at work, are they not going to compromise any investigations against them? Because they're still being investigated, right?
Look, the investigating officer is leading, and he obviously provided a report to the divisional commissioner to say these are his findings and his recommendations. So in his recommendations, he did not recommend the other 2 not to be suspended based on what he has found in his investigation, which is information that I cannot divulge. And then he recommended that the 2 be suspended. So why the 2 is it's information that is contained in his report to the Divisional Commissioner of Visible Policing and Operations.
Okay, so when they appeared in court, what charges are they facing?
Amongst the charges that they are facing is defeating the ends of justice. That's one of the charges that I can recall, and then aiding a prisoner to escape from lawful custody, a suspect rather, to escape from lawful custody. Those are amongst the 2 charges that they are facing.
Okay. So escaping a suspect, aiding a suspect from escaping from lawful custody. Okay. So there's 2. Just to repeat what you said, there's 2 that are now on suspension, and there's 2 now that are still at work based on the recommendation that was made. Have any of them, especially these 2 that are on suspension, are they still planning to plead not guilty?
Well, that's a matter between employer and employee, and we cannot
in court,
that in the public domain.
Yeah, so not in the DC, but in court. When they were charged, did they plead guilty, or not guilty?
All of them pleaded not guilty.
Okay.
All of them, all four pleaded not guilty. But then we then conducted our own internal departmental processes, and that is what led to the two being suspended and the other two still at work but removed from that particular operation because investigations are still ongoing. So
But
no one has been cleared yet.
okay, as the police though, are you positive about the leads you're following, that you will find this man and you'll find who's behind this?
We are confident that the team that is working on the case will provide answers, the answers that we are looking for as to where is this alleged underground kingpin, where was he taken to. So we are quite confident that those particular answers we will be provided in court.
Are you only relying on answers from them? So what I'm asking is because I would imagine you're broadening your investigation, not just to focus on these suspects. Because if they're not pleading guilty, chances are they'll tell you, I don't know anything about what you're talking about. I don't have any answers. So what else are you looking at as the police? Are you making headway? Do you have leads that seem to be leading you to answers about where this man is?
Look, it's a very broad investigation. We've got organized crime that is involved, working on this particular issue, on this particular case. We've got the Hawks that are also involved. So we're quite confident in their capabilities and expertise, that eventually we will find out what exactly transpired on that day when this particular underground kingpin escaped, and where was he taken to and why. So those are some of the answers that we are still searching for. It may be that the team has made significant progress, but because it is at a sensitive stage, this particular investigation, they wouldn't necessarily update us blow by blow because they need then to preserve the chain of evidence.
Okay, we'll check with you again on this matter because we've had this before where the police say the investigation is at a sensitive stage. We can't share much. It's been said before about other cases, and I just hope we're not going to end up like with Bushiri, where years later we still don't know how someone escaped, especially because in this case, this person was assisted clearly by the police officers. Let's move over to the Cwecwe case now, Brigadier Mathe. How far are your investigation? I saw that I think you were there on the ground, if I'm not mistaken, but you did speak to the media on Friday about where the case is. Have you met with the mom? What can you share with us?
The Cwecwe case, or let me rather not identify her, the 7-year-old girl's case, it's very complex, it's very sensitive because of certain aspects on the particular case, and one of them being that she was alleged to be raped, but no semen, no DNA, foreign DNA, or another person's DNA was found on her or any of the items that were sent to our lab. So it makes it very complex because usually cases where DNA is found, they're easier to solve because then you compare. There's something to compare with. So in this particular case, there was nothing to compare because there was no semen or any DNA that was found on the child. And I think that from a point of departure made it very difficult and challenging for the investigating officers to make headway in this case. But we do concede that better efforts from our officers in Matatiela should have been put into this case, better resources, better capacity. It could have been escalated earlier and not now, where we had to send the head of the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Investigations Unit head on the instruction of the National Commissioner to say, go and intervene, go and retrace the steps of the investigating officer. Perhaps you can identify some gaps, some loopholes where we may have missed a step. And that is exactly why we were in Matatiele last week to retrace those steps. So last week, what essentially happened, we arrived, General Lekgele met with the investigating team and started analyzing the docket already before she had left Pretoria. She started analyzing the docket and already picked up some of the things she thought needed further clarity or more information, more statements to be taken. So when we got there, indeed, she met with the complainant, the mother, and so on, and she got to understand why the mother went to social media to complain and for the nation to hear her plight. She met also with the first doctor that rather examined the child.
Yeah.
We got the NPA to give us authorization to get her. Those doctors, the treating doctors, statements and J88s. But already we did have the J88 in the initial investigation and so on.
So that's a report.
Further.
That's a report from the doctor who said this child has been raped from her examination.
That's the medical report, yes, indeed. So we needed to conduct further investigation with the doctor, their report, not just the J88. We need the report where they examine the child and so on. So also with other doctors as well, because the child was examined by various other doctors and so on.
Do they come to the same conclusion though? The other doctors who examined her?
Absolutely, the two doctors' reports were corroborating. So, so that's where we are. But, due to the sensitivity of the matter, I can't go into detail. But amongst those, statements that were taken, we went back to the school, spoke to assistant teachers. We went back to the parents of those children that travel with the child on transport. We went back. So we are busy with a very thorough investigation to ensure that we close all the loopholes and stuff. But what is more complex, Clement, is that it is a single witness case. So a single witness case means the child is the only victim and the witness in the case because no one else saw anything. So we have to rely on really intense and extensive investigative techniques because no DNA was found, so we rule that out. So we need to then interrogate other avenues to put the perpetrator on the crime scene, and so on. And I know there were a lot of questions as to then why take the buccal samples and DNA of persons of interest. We do so in investigation, especially with the Schedule 8 offenses, where there's murder, there's rape, other serious and violent crime. The purpose of this is that, yes, no DNA found on any of the items of the child or on the child herself, but DNA can assist us because you might find that you take a buccal sample of a person of interest, we then compare that with our database. It can lead us to a possible serial rapist, a murder suspect who committed murder elsewhere and was on the run and is now hiding in Matatiele and so on. So that type of investigation can also assist us to solve this case because even though DNA was not found, but we can see the pattern and the history of a suspect and a person of interest. So that is why, because a lot of questions was like, okay, if DNA and semen was not found on the child, then why are you then taking buccal samples of your persons of interest? So DNA evidence exonerates a person from a crime scene or removes a person from a crime scene or places them, but also gives us the history when we then compare it to our database. If there's a positive link, then we follow that particular lead investigation, and it can assist us to unravel and solve a lot of other things.
Do you still need the DNA samples of the principal of the school?
Look, Clement, I don't know where the story of the principal comes from. The principal was never identified as a person of interest in this particular case. From the statements that were taken, the principal is nowhere near that school in the 3 or 4 days that we are concentrating on. So it's really, I think the social media investigators are really giving us a tough time with this particular case. And that's why we are calling for responsible social media reporting, but also that stop pointing fingers at people before they are arrested and appear in court. It's a very sensitive case. We are a nation that is torn by this particular case. We are outraged. Everyone is outraged, and you're putting people's lives at risk. You're really putting people's lives at risk by identifying them, saying the caretaker is a suspect, saying the driver of the transport, they are suspects. Please refrain, South Africa, from doing this. You're really putting people's lives at risk.
Okay, just to be clear then, Brigadier Mathe, your SAPS officials have never asked this principal for his DNA.
We, at this stage, well, I'll have to verify that. But even if they were to ask, they are asking on what basis? Because he has never been identified as a suspect. The prima facie evidence is that he was nowhere near the school. So they would be asking on what basis?
Well, that's the question that I would ask. That if you've got officials who's asked him for DNA, on what basis do they do that? Because it's easy to want to blame social media, but I don't think that's enough. In fact, just hold on there. Let me bring in Barry Bateman because maybe he can assist us. He's the spokesperson for AfriForum's Public Prosecution Unit. Barry, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Clement, and thanks for having me.
The principal of the school, was he or was he not asked for his DNA sample? And if he was asked, by whom? Because the police say, on what basis?
He was asked by the investigating officer to provide a sample. When he questioned why he was being asked, because I must point out that he facilitated the investigating officer to take samples from those persons of interest that Athlenda just referred to. So he had assisted the police in taking those samples. 2 or 3 days later, the investigating officer says, Mr. Peterson, can I see you again, please? He comes to the school, and it was in that conversation he says, please, I'd like to take your sample as well. He says, well, am I a suspect now? The investigating officer said to him, no, you are not a suspect, but the mother insists that I take it from you. And that is when he came to us and got the advice, and we sent the correspondence to the SAPS, raising this concern related to an abusive process.
And since then, have they, taken a few steps back, or are they still insisting on that DNA sample?
That was the last we heard from the police. As Athlenda pointed out, Mr. Peterson was never a suspect. And let's say, if you're going to go in degrees, you don't even meet in this current state, the police haven't even met the bar for a suspect. We're still dealing with persons of interest. He was nowhere there. The police, having seen our correspondence, simply ignored us. If they were to persist with it, there would have been correspondence, and Mr. Peterson, as he indicated through the correspondence, he's more than willing to cooperate. He's been cooperating with the police since October last year, and this is borne out with the meetings that he's had with the police and all the engagement up to that meeting or when he was asked for the DNA. That's the last we heard from the police.
And if the police said to him, you are a person of interest, would he comply and provide his
That's
DNA?
what he's indicated all along.
Mm.
The correspondence on the 17th of February makes that clear. In terms of the Criminal Procedure Act, there's certain where you're not arresting somebody, but you require consent from somebody to get their DNA. You've got to have reasonable grounds. You can't just go around asking people for it. You must provide that. And that is what we asked for. There was never a suggestion that we won't comply, or Mr. Peterson won't, but just follow due process. And there was no follow-up from that.
Yeah. Barry Bateman, spokesperson for AfriForum's Public Prosecution Unit. Thank you. Brigadier Mathe, you had it yourself. It was your own investigating officer who asked for DNA samples from someone who's not even a suspect. So this is not social media that started this.
Absolutely. This is exactly why the National Commissioner sent the head of the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Investigations Unit to go and intervene, because he had, where he was sitting, he did not have a comprehensive report. He needed to ensure due diligence in this particular case. And that's why he sent the general to go back to the Eastern Cape, be on the ground, meet with the investigating team. They must explain the decisions and the processes that were followed to try and get to the perpetrator. So I don't want to get too much into that, but I am on record saying that on what basis, and those are some of the questions that were asked, to say on what basis are you requesting a particular person to take a buccal sample, because in none of the statements that were taken is this person near the school, is this person of a person of interest. So if indeed our own did request based on hearsay and based on social media. We don't work on hearsay in the police. We work with the chain of evidence. So those are some of the things that we are handling in-house and we are addressing.
Brigadier Athlenda Mathe, National Police Spokesperson, thank you for making time for us. It's so tough, eh? It's so tough. Because often these people make claims about, these are, like now, social media is the one suddenly that is pointed at this principal. And we're speaking about the need for him to provide his DNA samples. It wasn't social media, it was the police's very own investigating officer who wanted that, even when the principal himself was nowhere near the scene and the principal himself was not a suspect. But now the police are always going to try and justify their ways here of, this is how we're carrying out the investigation. Take accountability for where you're also messing it up. First of all, this is something that happened last year. It's only being escalated now, and it's not even being escalated by your own officers because they truly want to see justice. It's escalated because a woman has gone to social media. And South Africans have responded in their numbers because they are devastated by a medical report, 2 medical reports that are saying a 7-year-old child was penetrated. That's not normal. And the fact that the medical reports have said that, and we are sitting months later with no possible leads, and we're talking about the complexity of the case because, no foreign DNA found. And now it's going to be difficult because you're dealing now with a single witness case. We need to also talk about the accountability on the part of the SAPS. And I think often they also fail the victims here. It's 10:32. Let's get the latest in our Witness News headlines. Fiso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. 3 people have been shot and killed in Soweto in an attack that's caused traffic congestion. It's understood the victims are taxi marshals who were attacked in Folo this morning. The cause of the shooting is not yet known, and motorists have been urged to avoid the area and use alternative roads. Deputy President Paul Mashatile says DA cabinet ministers who showed up for work today are not doing themselves any favours as GNU talks take centre stage again. The future of the DA in the GNU hangs in the balance following their opposition of last week's budget vote. The ANC's National Working Committee is meeting today to decide on whether to keep the current composition of the GNU or change it. And Brazil's former President Jair Bolsonaro rallied thousands of people to a demonstration in Sao Paulo against charges levied by the Supreme Court that he plotted a coup. The far-right leader's rally yesterday brought out around 45,000 people to the streets, many of them in his support. He claims there is a plot to kill him because he's a thorn in the judges' throats. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, Durban Deep, that's in the Rudaport area. Traffic remains sluggish on Randfontein Road between Corlett Avenue and Miles Stoker. There's also faulty traffic lights in Edenvale, Motorfontein Road and Van Riebeck. Traffic lights out of order in Alex at Marlborough Drive and Far East Bank. And also look out for traffic lights not working. That's in the Rand Park Ridge area at Bayers Nodia and the N1 North. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. Betway's exclusive new games are taking the world by storm. Featuring massive Megaways jackpots. Take your shot on Cash and Riches, Wolf Blaze, Gallo Gold Brunos, and many more incredible experiences for you to choose from. You're guaranteed to find a new ultra fun favorite. Get way more only at Betway. Betway is licensed by the Mpumalanga Economic Regulator. No persons under the age of 18 are permitted to gamble. NRGP counseling line 0800 006 008. All events are fixed odds betting games.
Easter's here, and Motor Select is making it even sweeter. Find your perfect car, inquire about it, and you could win one of 20 1,000 Rand fuel vouchers. With over 4,000 cars from over 80 trusted dealerships, hop over to motorselect.co.za to enter. Plus, buy a car by 30 April and you could win an extra 5,000 Rand fuel voucher. Only at motorselect.co.za. T&Cs apply.
You and your two besties have been belting out the same song since you were 6 years old.
Don't you feel like a cry?
30 years later, and that song will be sung live in New York City.
Don't you feel like crying?
Imagine.
Don't you feel like a crying?
Now imagine buying 3 Golden Circle tickets to the show. Ladies, we ride a door.
Oh, yeah.
Invest early. You'll be so happy you did. Coronation. Trust is earned. Coronation is a registered FSP.
702 was in conversation with Altron,
Celebrating 60 years of solving real-world problems
and discussing their plans to rebuild
and re-energize Johannesburg through partnership
and collaboration.
You've partnered with Josie Majosi. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I think firstly, it's really important that it's time to tell the Joburg story. You know, I think for good reasons, you know, things like Eskom Transnet has been a big part of the national dialogue over the last couple of years. But I think it's really time that we put our focus on Joburg. You know, it's the heartbeat of the South African economy. And you know, obviously Altron's been, you know, as you said now with Bill and the founding of Altron, you know, very much part of that story. So what we've really done is we really feel that we've been part of building this city. So we want to really be part of the efforts to rebuild the city. So we partnered with Josie Majosi. They're a non-for-profit organization. You know them.
Visit altron.com for more info.
Altron, a technology industry leader
Since 1965.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
23 minutes before 11 o'clock. Let's now continue with that series that we started last week. Today is the second installment of our series about the afterlife. Do you believe in the afterlife, or are you a type of person that believes as soon as you are done on this earth, that's it? Nothing exists beyond this. Do you ever think about what happens after this life? We're going to be looking over the next couple of weeks at different belief systems and what they say about the afterlife. And you're more than welcome to share your own belief systems. When you look at your own life, this human experience, do you think that the physical body is all that there is? Because I don't really believe that. The human experience is more than that, is more than just this physical body. And I think we need to be curious enough to ask ourselves questions about other parts of this human experience, whether it's the spirit, whether it's the soul. You know, some people believe in eternal life, some people believe in reincarnation. But what do you believe happens after life? You can send your thoughts on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 0727021702. Last week, we focused on the different Christian denominations and what they believe about the afterlife. Today, we're focusing on what Islam teaches about the afterlife. And like most religions, you know, Islam suggests that how one lives shapes how they are received in the afterlife. So we've invited Maulana Abdul Khaliq Ali, who is a Muslim religious leader, to guide us through this conversation. Thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to all your listeners.
Yeah. No, really appreciate your time, Maulana, for guiding us through this chat. Can we maybe start by explaining what Islam teaches about life after death? What is the belief?
Let me compliment you for this very important discussion. In Islam, one of the Islamic beliefs is focus on afterlife, and it is known as akhirah in the Arabic term. So one of the tenets of Islam is to believe in the oneness of Allah, the oneness of God, to believe in all the prophets of God. And one of those particular important tenets of Islam is to believe in the afterlife, life after death. Therefore, a believer in Islam is a person who believes that there is life after death. And if a person believes in akhirah, in life after death, it makes him complete his faith in the teachings of Islam. And therefore the Quran talks a lot about life after death. And hence, the very essence of life after death, as what we believe in the oneness of Allah, the prophets of God, some of the practices, it is rooted within Quranic teachings and the prophetic teachings.
So how does then how people live now influence that life after their life here? So in other words, how does even the concept of accountability influence a Muslim's daily life in as far as that consideration about the afterlife is concerned?
So we believe that this earthly life is a temporary abode. Whoever lives here is not meant to stay here, and that has been the practice for centuries. And we all believe as faith people that inevitably we will die. And so when we have been placed in this earthly abode, it is meant as a test. And hence, the moment that we become matured, our actions are counted, it is recorded, it is documented. And hence, it is so very critical that as a matured person, with a proper intellect, good understanding, that we must be able to be conscious of our actions. And therefore, actions in this life determines our fate in the year after. And so the Quran would say to us, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Almighty Allah, be conscious of the day that you have to return to Allah. And hence, there is accountability for our actions. The moment that a person is conscious about the fact that I am going to be accountable for my actions, there is a day wherein I am going to be standing in front of Allah, and I am going to be questioned about my actions in this earthly life, then it demands almost that you live a conscious life, a life wherein you make every action count for you, and you do such acts, deeds that is going to be meaningful for your day of reckoning, when we are going to be standing in front of the Almighty Allah. And therefore, we, as a believer, we must never be able to isolate the concept of life, faith, and actions from the year after. It is part of our belief system. It is part of what the Quran continuously reminds us about. And the Prophet and all prophets has taught their followers about the year after.
So last week when we were looking at just what the different denominations in Christianity believe, we also spoke about this concept of purgatory, this Catholic doctrine of this place or state of suffering inhabited by the souls of sinners who are explaining their sins before going to heaven. So it's this system of, okay, I can ask for forgiveness. They can take you through this process where you can be accepted then in heaven. In the teachings of Islam, is there a role for forgiveness or, I don't know, mercy in the afterlife, according to the Quran?
You know, the concept of Allah in Islam, when we speak about Allah, when Allah introduces himself to us in the glorious Quran, he introduces himself by saying, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, glory be to Allah, the Lord of the entire universe, of all creation. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, most merciful, most kind. That particular concept of mercy is deeply rooted within the teachings of Islam. And therefore, when we study the glorious Quran, we will find mercy to be a very central theme of the glorious Quran. And where Allah continuously speaks about mercy, forgiveness, and affording an opportunity for a person in his earthly life. But because we are human, we may err, we may transgress, we may do something that is not right. Then Almighty Allah affords us the opportunity to repent and to return to Allah and to seek forgiveness. When it comes to the year after, there's a prophetic teaching, and this prophetic teaching is something that really stands out to me about the merciful Allah. And he says that, and it is for us to understand. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that the mercy of Allah is divided in 100 portions. One portion of that is what we find within this earthly life. So when you see love, and when you see kindness, and when you see compassion, and when you see forgiveness, when you see smiles, and when you see embracing, when you see goodness amongst people, or even within the animal kingdom, it is all to do with that mercy of Allah. 99% of that mercy is vested for the year after, meaning that Allah is oft forgiving. Allah is seeking from us that we must enter paradise. We must gain His pleasure. And Allah is ready to forgive. Yes, Allah is ready. So there's an important point that I wish to make. When it comes to our obligation to our fellow human being, remember, we are here in this earthly life. It's a test. We have to live with our fellow human beings. There must be kindness and compassion with one another. We must be able to fulfill our obligations to one another. Each and everyone has a right over each other. We have to fulfill those particular rights. Those particular rights, if it is not fulfilled here towards one another, for argument's sake, a parent has a duty towards a child to rear the child, to feed him, to take care of him, and to be able to nurture him in a certain way. If there's been a failure on behalf of the parent, such a parent, now remember, this earthly life is a test. So in the year after, you're going to be questioned about that right that you as a parent has not fulfilled towards your child. Or if it is vice versa. But when it comes to our obligations to Allah, Allah is most forgiving. So we have an obligation to do 5 times a day prayer. Okay, that is a duty that we have towards Allah. And Allah is ready to forgive if a person has not forgiven that, even though there's mechanisms in place in Islam that you can make up for those lost prayers. Or for argument's sake, we just exited the month of Ramadan fasting, and a person didn't fast. There's a mechanism in place where he can be able to make up for the lost days of fasting.
All right.
But Allah is forgiving.
I want to stop it there for now. Mulana, we're going to take a quick ad break. It's 11 minutes now before 11 o'clock. When we come back, I want us to touch on maybe the specific rituals or processes, or I don't know, prayers that Muslims maybe perform to prepare for the afterlife. I'd like you to take us through that, but I've got some calls and WhatsApps as well coming through from some of our listeners. I'd like to start with those when we return.
Dear Journal, day 4642 of trying to be an adult. I miss when being a millennial meant I was young, dumb, and broke. Now, it just means I'm old, out of touch, and, you guessed it, still broke.
aggressively realizing your age? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's simple and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Andres is all in when it comes to Audis, while Mark is your Mercedes-Benz man, Figile is a Ford fanatic, and Isaac is incontestably the Isuzu guru. JP will find you your perfect GAC, and to Oscar, there's only one car, the Jaguar. You see, our people know their stuff, and we know our people. We know that without them, there are no happy customers. There are no sales, no service. Our people are our passion, because they know people like you. Bidvest McCarthy, our people deliver, always.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za. Your voice.
Your questions.
Your morning radio with Clement Manyathela.
This is 702.
It's 9 minutes now, in fact 8 minutes before 11 o'clock. Let's start with your WhatsApps on 072 702 1702.
Hi, Clement and team. Clement, can you please ask your guest, like, when is this afterlife going to happen? Because I don't know. According to me, I don't believe that there is afterlife, because we don't die at the same time. Is there a time where we all gonna be dead and then there is afterlife, or how does it work? Because every time you talk to people who believe, they tell you that we are going to wake up and live again, you know. So everyone is preparing for that. But according to me, no, I don't believe in it. But maybe I'm wrong. Thank you.
Good morning, Clement. Franz here in Tembisa. On the issue of life after death, I don't know if I'm putting it correctly. My wife passed on last month, 25th of February. And before she died, she wanted me to visit the hospital. And when I visited the hospital, she wasn't able to talk, so she asked for a piece of paper so that she can write something. Then she wrote, "I am going home." And I asked her, "Where home? What do you mean by going home?" And then she pointed to the sky. And that's what she said to me, or that's the last thing that she wrote to me. And from that point on, she could not look me into the face. And the following morning, I heard that she has passed on. From that day on, I believe that we are not literally not dying. We are just crossing to another reality. Thank you so much.
Oh, my goodness. I'm so sorry to hear about your wife. And I've had so many stories of people who say as their loved ones were about to cross over or were about to die, they couldn't look at them in the eye. Does anybody know where that comes from? Because it's a story I've heard many times of, no, they can't look at you in the eye, and then a couple of hours later or a day later you hear that they have passed. And I suppose some of these questions we're never gonna know until we are in those shoes, right? Or until we get to the other side. If you believe on the other side. Here's the last WhatsApp voice note, and then I'll get Mulana Abdul Khalik Ali to respond to the questions.
Clement, your guest is so fascinating. I do have a question for the Imam about ghosts. My daughter went on camp and one of the Muslim girls was talking about a jinn. Are there souls that don't find peace in the afterlife and that are perhaps sort of roaming around, for lack of a better word, as a ghost, or a soul that can't find peace? What is the view of Islam on that?
Amazing. Great questions, guys. Mulana Abdul Khalik Ali, there's a question. The first one was about what does the afterlife, when does the afterlife actually happen? Like what happens while we wait because we don't die at the same time? And the question now about what, the ghosts, are there souls that just wander around that don't find peace? What does Islam teach in as far as these questions are concerned?
So let me just as a start, also share my sympathies with your second caller. Franz, I think is his name. And all the strength to him and to his family. Death it is inevitable and it is a painful process when you lose a loved one. Coming back to your first question, the lady that called in about when this afterlife starts. Afterlife starts when death sets in. When a person dies, then that individual's afterlife starts immediately. In Islam, now there's a number of things that will happen the moment, and we believe that there's a special angel which is appointed by the Almighty Allah that takes the soul of the person out of the body. And then that particular soul, and therefore we believe that the soul live on. The death is just a doorway to the hereafter. So that happens then. But then there is also the moment that the person dies, then he goes into a realm of what is known as barzakh. It is almost a temporary phase or stage of existence of this particular soul before the day of resurrection, which is known as Yawm al-Din, the day when or Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of resurrection, when all men will be called to appear in front of Allah.
So what happens in that state? Because they're not in heaven yet, or hell, or where are they? What in that realm are they? Where are they existing while they wait for the last day?
So that is the important question that is to be understood in the basis on the basis of the person's actions, person's belief, and accordingly, there are the place where it's going to be a restful place, and that particular restful place is where the soul is going to be stationed, or where all the souls are stationed, and the soul is alive, and or either the soul being in a place of discomfort because of the fact that the person did not believe, or the person has been disobedient to Almighty Allah, and that is where that particular soul will be stationed.
Okay. Just lastly, on the last, just 1 second, Mulana. In fact, let me do this because I'm out of time. I'm going to take a quick ad break and then do the news when we come back, because I don't want to rush you in responding to this question. It's so contextual, and I don't want the listeners to miss parts of it. So I'll give you an opportunity after the news to respond also to that second question about what happens to souls that don't find peace. It's a minute before 11.
What is your money doing right now? Is it lazing around in that other account because you're not sure where to move it for premium growth? Well, let's make it work hard in a Standard Bank Money Market Select investment account, where we'll grow it with a nominal interest of up to 7.9% on a minimum deposit of 100,000 Rand. Plus, you get access to your funds anytime. Open yours online or on our app today. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
If you are looking for a ride that turns heads and redefines luxury, meet the all-new Omoda C9, the flagship model that's as bold as you are, with its award-winning avant-garde design, chic styling, and a long list of luxury features, the Omoda C9 isn't just a car, it's a statement. Upgrade your drive today. Visit omoda.co.za and experience innovation like never before. Omoda C9, luxury that makes sense.
World Sports Betting puts the excitement of Vegas in the palm of your hand. Bet on thousands of markets daily or try your luck on hundreds of games and you could become an instant millionaire. Register today at wsb.co.za and get your first deposit matched up to a massive 20,000 Rand. World Sports Betting. Bet with the best. Licensed by Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No person under the age of 18 permitted to gamble. NRGP toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008. Winners know when to stop.
Time for Eyewitness News, and this Eyewitness News is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let cars.co.za find what moves you.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. 3 people have been shot and killed in Soweto in an attack that's caused traffic congestion. It's understood the victims are taxi marshals who were attacked in Mfulo this morning. The cause of the shooting is not yet known, and motorists have been urged to avoid the area and use alternative roads. JMPD spokesperson Xolani Fihla.
Law enforcement officials and emergency services are currently on scene, and motorists are urged to exercise extreme caution when driving in the vicinity of Mahalifelo Road in Mfulo Central, as vehicles are being diverted at Machaba Drive and Mageza Street.
Some residents in Dennisville living along the Vaal Dam are taking essential items from their homes following an evacuation order. The Water and Sanitation Department has opened a 5th sluice gate after heavy rain pushed the Vaal Dam beyond capacity, which could lead to flooding. People are removing livestock and other important belongings. Mongezi Koko reports.
It's a scene of nervous preparation here in Dennisville in the Free State. The weather has calmed for now, but locals aren't taking any chances, moving their most valued possessions and heading for safer, higher ground. This resident has told EWN that she's cleared out her holiday home and is back to collect her boat before conditions worsen.
The safety of a boat is important, and the poor residents here, they've all had to evacuate, and I believe it's even worse at the river. So we're on our way there now to see what to do, how to go.
The Citibank District Municipality says its disaster management teams are on high alert, warning that the situation could deteriorate quickly if rain continues to fall. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News, Dennisville in the Free State.
Deputy President Paul Mashatile says DA cabinet ministers who showed up for work today are not doing themselves any favours as GNU talks take centre stage again. The future of the DA in the GNU hangs in the balance following their opposition of last week's budget vote. The ANC's National Working Committee will meet today to decide on whether to keep the current composition of the GNU or change it. Mashatile made the comments during an engagement with thought leaders and industry professionals at the Ahmed Katratha Foundation Business Breakfast in Ilovo this morning. Nokayam Dambo is there.
The decision by the DA and the FF Plus not to support the budget in the National Assembly last week continued to pull at an outfit already hanging by the thread. Some in the ANC are said to be calling for the two parties to be punished for failing to toe the GNU line. Although a decision has not been made, Deputy President Paul Mashatile says the DA was forewarned of the consequences.
Before we went to Parliament, the President said to Minister Stevenson, if you don't vote for this budget, you are defiling yourself outside the GNU.
Mashatile says the DA cabinet ministers who showed up for work today are disingenuous.
Because where does the budget come from?
The future of the GNU is likely to be clearer post the ANC's NWC meeting later today. Nogukanyam Dambo, Eyewitness News.
And Brazil's former President Jair Bolsonaro has rallied thousands of people to a demonstration in Sao Paulo against charges levied by the Supreme Court that he plotted a coup. The far-right leader's rally brought around 45,000 people to the streets, many of them his supporters. He claims there's a plot to kill him because he's a thorn in the judge's throat. The former president's key demand is amnesty for those convicted of an attack in Brasilia last year. Thousands Dozens of his supporters stormed the presidential palace, Congress and Supreme Court, demanding that the military oust President Lula da Silva, who had narrowly triumphed over Bolsonaro in the 2022 election. Bolsonaro himself will face trial for an alleged coup plot after the election. The country's Supreme Court decided last month a case that could torpedo his hopes of making a Donald Trump-style political comeback. It will be the first trial of a former leader accused of attempting to take power by force since Brazil returned to democracy in 1985 after 2 decades of military dictatorship. Bolsonaro has denied the charges. Gold is trading at $3,029.36 an ounce. The rand is at 19.34 to the dollar, 24.96 to the pound, 21.28 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $63.80 a barrel.
Durban Deep Roodepoort, traffic remains sluggish on Randfontein Road between Corlett Avenue and Miles Stalker, while in Rand Park Ridge, traffic lights not working in Bayers Nordia and the N1 North, as well as in Ilovo at Oxford and Corlett.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 21 and 24 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: 3 people have been shot and killed in Soweto in an attack that's caused traffic congestion.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Do you want to buy a Honda? Cars.coza. Toyota or Mahindra? Cars.coza. Do you want to sell a Cherry? Cars.coza. Suzuki or Mercedes? Cars.coza. Polo, Kia, Mitsubishi, Havel, Hyundai, Lamborghini. Buy and sell, it's very easy. All you got to do is type Cars.coza, Cars.coza, Cars.coza. Let's find what moves you. Cars.coza, Cars.coza.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
7 minutes after 11 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela show. I want us to take a few minutes from this hour to just finish off the conversation we started in the previous half hour with Mulana Abdul Khaliq Ali, who is a Muslim religious leader, as part of our series about the afterlife. There was a question there, Mulana, about ghosts and whether in Islam you believe in ghosts and what happens to souls that don't find peace. And do you believe there are souls that do not find peace?
So the lady that posed that particular question used an Arabic term. And you recall using the word jinn. Now, the Quran is very, very clear about the fact that Allah has created both human beings as a creation, and Allah has also created what we refer to as jinns. They are unseen. They are creation like human beings are creation. We don't regard them as ghosts. There may be a different concept of a ghost and an understanding of a ghost, but a jinn is a creation of Almighty Allah, and it is also meant to worship the oneness of Allah. And like within human race, you have those who are obedient to Allah, and then you may have those who are disobedient to Allah. The very same could apply to the jinn. And that is where that particular matter is concerned. Okay. Now, when let me just go back to the point in terms of when a person dies, and the ruh, what is now the Arabic term for the soul is ruh, which in actual fact is the essence of our existence. Prior to our life in this earthly life, the ruh existed, the soul existed. When we were conceptualized in this earthly life, the ruh is placed into the body. The body dies, the ruh lives on. So when a person is now taken to in the realm of the year after, then a person is questioned immediately when a person is placed in the grave. And amongst those very important questions, and it is a well-established fact that the angels would come. They are known as Munkar and Nakir, and they would question a person about your Lord.
Okay.
Who is your Lord? What do you say about your Lord?
Mm.
And the person would respond obviously accordingly. A person would say, Allahu Rabbi, Allah is my Lord. A person will be asked about Islam. What do you say about Islam? Or what is your religion? And the person would respond, my religion is Islam. And likewise, a person will be asked about the person that has been sent as a prophet, and that would make references to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the final messenger that we believe.
Okay.
And so, accordingly, a person would answer those particular questions when the angels questions him in terms of that.
Are there,
and accordingly,
are there any specific rituals or prayers, Mulana, that Muslims perform to prepare for that afterlife?
There is, the Quran and the prophetic teachings, because we believe the eternal life is the eternal life. It is the real life. We are being taught from the Quran and prophetic teachings and previous prophets' teachings that we constantly make dua and prayer for the year after. So one of those particular common prayers is a prayer that we make, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Oh Allah, grant us the good of this earthly life, and grant us the goodness of the year after, and save us from the fire of the hell. There are numerous other teachings that wherein the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say, oh Allah, grant us to do such actions that will inevitably lead me to gain the pleasure of the Almighty Allah. A person, either he goes into paradise, and paradise is this an abode, it's a place, but the objective is the pleasure of Allah, where Allah is satisfied with us as being a servant of His, and He is our Almighty, He's our Creator, He's our Sustainer. We would love Him, and so we seek that, and then at the same time we seek the protection of the fire of hell. So the Islamic traditions are filled with numerous verses, numerous prophetic teachings that guides the believer to continuously seek the dua and seek the prayer from the Almighty for the success of the year, and yes, obviously success in this earthly life, but inevitably the life after death. And then the common prayer to safeguard us from the punishment of the grave. It's a common prayer that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has also taught us that we should continuously make.
Mulana Abdul Khaliq Ali, thank you so much for making time for us. And I hope that when we end this series, you'll be able to go back and listen to all of the different guests we've had, listen to all the different belief systems, because I just think that just helps you be curious. I think sometimes we are so closed up on what you believe or what you were told to believe, and there's not a lot of questioning. There's no curiosity. We focus so much on our bodies as part of this human experience. And as I said, there's more to us, or to this human mysterious experience. There's more to us than just this body. It's 14 minutes now after 11 o'clock.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
There are proposed amendments to regulations that govern the private security industry regulatory authority, popularly known as CIRA. Much of this has to do with firearms.
They've also banned or severely restricted the use of non-lethal or less lethal means that the security industry uses. So what's going to happen is, instead of using rubber bullets in a situation where there could be some sort of disorder, the security industry is going to be forced to use live ammunition.
Martin Hood, he is an attorney and partner at MJ Hood and Associates.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo.
My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Drive your success and trade like a champion. CFI, a global leading broker now in South Africa. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial is an authorized financial services provider.
CFI, empower yourself.
The roar of the crowd, the thrill of clay court tennis, and the magic of Paris could all be yours. Destinations by Frasers, in collaboration with Delcy Paris and Air France, is giving you a once-in-a-lifetime chance to witness the Men's French Open final with tickets and return flights for two. Purchase any Delcy luggage from Destinations by Frasers or Frasers stores this April to enter. Destinations by Frasers, South Africa's premium choice in luggage. Visit us in-store or online at destinations.za.com. Paris is calling. Will you answer?
So we did a thing, a full commitment kind of thing. We've partnered with Sixt to bring Worldwide to your doorstep. So you see how that's a serious thing, because that's what you deserve. We know you're the GOAT, so premium it is. Premium service, premium vehicles, premium you, premium us. Sani Sixt is all about adding extra to ordinary. Extra reach, extra countries, so you can be extra premium worldwide. Be the greatest of all time and rent Sani Sixt.
Small business owners juggle a million roles in one. And that's what makes them one in a million. The 702 Small Business Awards, brought to you by MTN, asked you to tell us all about that one SME that just stands out. And this week, we're announcing the finalists on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa from 6 a.m. and 702 Drive with John Pullman from 3 p.m. Visit primemediaplus.com to find out more about the finalists in the 702 Small Business Awards, brought to you by MTN. T's and C's apply. 702.
Family Matters.
17 minutes after 11 o'clock. Time now for our Family Matters feature. And today we're discussing what we actually discussed a couple of weeks ago. If you remember, a couple of weeks ago we had a conversation on our Family Matters feature about parenting a child with special needs. And after we had that conversation, we received a number of messages from adults with special needs who were explaining how difficult it is for them to navigate the world. So we thought we should do a follow-up conversation, in this time focusing on adults with special needs and how they navigate the world. And these are adults who may require additional support or accommodations due to their physical or mental disabilities. And I would like you to share your experiences with us. If you are this type of an adult who's got special needs, you can give us a call to share your experience on 011-883-0702 or send a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702. Dipuo Morake is a therapist and general manager at Logwood Village, who's in studio with us to guide us through this conversation. Dipuo, thank you for making time. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Let's maybe look at, when we talk about adults with special needs, what are we looking at? Because I know there are various kinds of special needs. What do we focus on most times?
When we talk about adults with special needs, we talk about adults from the ages of 18 who are diagnosed with either having mental disabilities, either having physical disabilities, or in some instances, those who have chronic illnesses. When we talk about intellectual disabilities, then we'll talk about those that have Down syndrome, they have autism, they have hydrocephalus, some of them have they are those that we call, in inverted commas, slow learners, those that cannot really function or be able to be educated in our normal schools, as well in the inverted commas. And then obviously then physical disabilities is those that have been injured, either they are born with those kind of physical disabilities. And also when you talk about special needs, we talk about those with chronic illnesses, like those that are having diabetes, others are having high blood pressure. Those are the kind of special needs that we talk about.
Yeah. So a few weeks ago when we were talking about parenting a child with special needs, I mean, the focus normally is on, you can get them a good school where they can belong. And yes, there were complaints about how pricey some of these schools are. But then we never focus on what happens when they are now adults. And I wonder if you can share with us some of the challenges that they now face as adults. Yes, they've gone through the schools. Maybe they went through a system that somehow embraced and supported them where there are limitations. But when they are adults, what kind of challenges are there? I mean, applying for jobs, you can't just walk in and do whatever job you want.
And not all of them can really be employed. So that's the challenge that we have mainly in South Africa about the few facilities that we have for adults with intellectual disabilities, especially after they have exited the schools, that there's nowhere they go. I'm going to talk about what we do at Lockwood Village. Lockwood Village is a home, is a residential facility for adults with intellectual disabilities. So what we do is that when they are from the schools, then we admit them into a home. It is a home away from home. We provide them with holistic care. When I talk about holistic care is that because they cannot be educated outside, they cannot be employed outside. Some of them, they cannot even read and write. So we give them skills and we give them therapeutic care. Services, we have social workers that give them counseling, then there are therapeutic activities, what they do during the day. Because of Clement, with the lack of facilities, most of them now cannot afford, like you said, to be in residential facilities. They're all over the country. They're at homes. Other parents are frustrated because now they don't know what to do with them. It's not many facilities, and also just because they are adults with intellectual disabilities does not mean that they qualify to be in all the residential facilities. People with mental disabilities, with intellectual disabilities, with physical disabilities, they differ. Not everybody with an intellectual disability will qualify in a facility like Lockwood Village, and those are the challenges that we have. What do we do with them? Where do we do with them? Where do we take them? And that is why then we have Lockwood Village, we have protective workshops where they can be taken to. Protective workshop is where they get skills development, where a company will bring work for them to do, small scale of work. It will be packaging, can be labeling, it can be, assembling of goods that they can give because they need to be therapeutically, mentally stimulated. So those are the challenges. But Clement, honestly speaking, there's not much facilities around in South Africa for adults with intellectual disabilities.
And once they receive those skills, where do they use those skills? Is it a matter of just upskilling them, or are there actually businesses out there that are open to giving them opportunities? So is the job market receptive?
Not at all. And also, I think we should also be aware, or we should note that there are different levels of intellectual disabilities. There are those that by looking at me and you cannot see that this person has an intellectual disability. And there are those that are severely intellectual disability that they cannot benefit. We do have some few companies, if I must say, because also if people are not aware of intellectual disabilities or mental disabilities, there are few companies that can employ them. But remember as well, people with special needs, they cannot work like you and I at 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. I need to work. They need a carer as well, somebody. And also it needs the employers to be aware and to understand the kind of intellectual disability that they have or mental disability that they have. So we cannot give them skills and then we take them to any corporate environment or to any business. It needs to be a business that will cater for their needs, which is very, very important, that it must be a business that will cater for their needs, that people with special needs, sometimes it is not even tea time, and for them they need that 5 minutes break. Companies should be able to do that and say, you know what, you can take your 5 minutes, but then you have to come back. Not all the companies are geared for that.
Yeah, sure. Just as a therapist yourself,
yes.
When people are growing up with, maybe they have a disability, they've got special needs, sometimes there's hope as they go through the system that, maybe I'm going to get out of the system and I'm going to be, and I use this in inverted commas, I'm going to be normal.
Yes.
Right? And I use that in inverted commas. How do you talk to them? And based on your experience, do you have a lot that have actually accepted that I am different? And for those that haven't accepted, how difficult is it for them to just integrate in society? Because what I've seen even from where I come from, someone with special needs ends up living with their family until they die. Yes. They're old, but they're still staying with their family, and sometimes they're treated like wana, like a child.
Yes.
So what is just that process of them accepting, and do they accept? When they are not accepting, how challenging does it also become for them and their loved ones?
For them to accept, it takes a lot of education. They need to know their limitations. They need to know their diagnosis, which is very much important, to say, this is what you can do and this is what you cannot do. So it goes more and more into making them self-aware of their limitations, if there's any, and of the knowledge that they have. They must have a broad knowledge of their intellectual disability or of their mental abilities. This is what they can do, this is what they cannot do. And also, Clement, we're talking about an adult with intellectual disability. The other role that plays so much important is that we should not isolate the caregivers. Primary caregivers being the parents, the families, the brothers and the sisters. For them also, if everybody knows the limitations, if everybody understands what the person has been diagnosed with, what they can and cannot do, then they have this therapist, that the therapist can take it halfway, and then the parents also come in, and then it becomes a holistic therapy to everybody that is concerned. We have those that really, they do accept that they are intellectually disabled, they cannot go and work outside, they cannot be educated, get married, have kids, and all those. But you have those that really, even though they know that they have limitations, Clement, everybody needs to be valued. Everybody needs some goals. And we also have those that even though they are intellectually disabled, mentally disabled, they still have goals. They still want to get married. They still want to have kids. Even though we know that because of their diagnosis, they cannot. So education, it goes back to educating them and showing them that you cannot have 1, 2, 3, 4, but just because you cannot have a family, you cannot be employed, you cannot get married and have kids, doesn't mean that you are less of a human being. You can still get therapeutic services, you can still go to protective workshops. Those are the workshops that I'm talking about, where they can do minimum work. You can still participate and, be a member of society, community. Be engaged. And what is important is also that we keep them surrounded by those that are like-minded, the ones that are the same as them. Because when you see somebody is like me, and then they can do here at Logwood Village, they are here together, they can all go to the workshop, they can all play sports together. It limits, the urge to go outside and become independent, knowing that they cannot.
Yeah, and obviously there are, because it's got levels, as you say. There are some people who are happily married with kids.
Yes.
I hosted on the show a couple of months ago, sometime late last year. I had people that are blind in studio with me. And, some of them have got children. Some of them, were happily married. So there's also this idea that just because you've got special needs or you have a disability, somehow you can't have the kids, or you can have. In fact, one of the ladies who was blind said to me, some people gossip about me and say, how can she fall pregnant when she's blind? So I suppose there's a level of education that's needed by us as a society as well, so that we're able to embrace and understand the limitations of the people that are different to us, and not just the family at home. Is that fair to say?
It is. Mental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, they are not advocated as much as other disabilities like your HIV, AIDS, your cancer. People still don't understand what mental illness is, what entails when you say a person is living with a mental or an intellectual disability. And just because somebody, which is very important that you raise, that somebody has special needs, does not mean that they cannot. And just because the person that is next door is married and have kids and all that, even though they have intellectual disability, does not mean that my child also will go the same route. So it is very much important to know where do they stand. Because people with autism, if I give an example, they don't have the same symptoms. They don't have the same behavior traits. There are people with autism that are employed. They are very good with computers and laptops and all that. And there are those with autism who cannot, even communicate, who cannot even, bath themselves, that will need assistance and those. So it's very much important to know on what level of functioning are they on.
Because there's a spectrum. All
there
right.
is, yes.
This takes us to exactly 11:30 now. Let's get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. When we come back, I'm going to go straight to your calls on 011-883-0702. Are you an adult living who's got special needs? Maybe you do have a disability. There are obviously various conditions, whether it's intellectual disabilities, whether it's the autism spectrum, any disorder. How have you been navigating? Has it been challenging? Have you found a way? Do you have a support system? I'd like you to share your experiences with us. Or maybe you've got someone who is a loved one in your family, in your friendship circle, at work. 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Mikey, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. We begin in Soweto, where JMPD officials are diverting traffic in Mofolo to alternative routes following a shooting that claimed 3 lives this morning. As understood, the victims are taxi marshals who were attacked in the area. The cause of the shooting is not yet known, and motorists have been urged to avoid the area. President Cyril Ramaphosa has defended the passing of the national budget, saying it's directed at growing the economy while funding the country's important services. Last week, Parliament adopted the 2025 fiscal framework and revenue proposals as tabled in the budget speech by the Finance Minister, and which also includes a 0.5 percentage point VAT increase. But in his latest newsletter, Ramaphosa says the budget, which faces a legal challenge by the DA, is a critical instrument to drive the country's development and narrowing inequality. And in the courts this morning, a police colonel who took a confession statement from one of the accused is currently testifying in the Jocelyn Smith trial. The officer interviewed Cwecwe police shortly after he was arrested for allegedly being involved in Jocelyn's disappearance. Police and co-accused Stefano van Rijn alleged they were tortured to confess their involvement in Jocelyn's disappearance last year. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, we still have delays. That's in the Durban Deep area on Randfontein Road between Corlett and Miles Stalker. There's also slow-moving traffic. This is on in Rand Park Ridge, approaching the intersection of Beyers Naudé and the N1 North due to faulty traffic lights. Also, traffic lights out of order in Ilovo at Corlett and Oxford. And look out for those traffic lights not working in Randburg at Malibonga Drive and Mahogany. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Paying too much for car insurance, you could be, but you'll never know until you shop around. Switch to Outsurance and you could save big every month. Pinky, a 60-year-old woman, is a real Outsurance client who saves an unbelievable 870 Rand a month on her 2020 Kia Seltos 1.6. Now, that's a real deal. Why pay more? Switch and save today. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
I'm a person with vision, and I need a car that will catapult me into the future. There's no time to waste dreaming. It's time to do and discover the extraordinary. My M-Zoom R-Style and I set the pace. It's my wingman. On the dance floor or with the CEO, time is money, and I want the best. Upgrading to the M-Zoom R-Style at the M-Zoom executive price is a steal of a deal. At 439,900 Rand, get yours this April before the VAT increase. GAC or Craft meets technology.
My family's struggling with snotty noses and phlegmy coughs.
Oh no! Have you tried ACC?
ACC 600 is a convenient one-a-day effervescent tablet from 14 years of age. Or now also in a no-water-needed, fruity-flavored sherbet-like granules that dissolve in your mouth. Ideal for the on-the-go adult. Ask for ACC 600 effervescent or oral powder at your nearest pharmacy to get rid of the snotties and flemmings. And trust, if it doesn't say ACC, it's not ACC.
702 and Corporates at Care caught up with Sunshine Cinema co-founder and creative director Roan Pybus on tackling youth unemployment through mobile solar cinema kits.
In the film world, if you make a really great film, a lot of documentaries have what they call an impact producing strategy. So how does this film reach an audience and tangibly change the mindset? And so we thought of a mobile solar powered cinema, and then we started talking to the filmmakers and saying, do you understand, we're not a for-profit model, but we think your film can be very useful here. For example, in a conservation space or gender-based violence, a community that's really got high prevalence of gender-based violence. It started with a tiny little solar-powered cinema in a box that I hacked together, and now we've got these boxes are all over the province. We operate now in Eswatini and Mozambique, Kenya, Zimbabwe. The cinema is a way to spark conversation. That's what it actually is. People ask, why cinema vital as an NGO model? We do this because we know when you show the film, people are going to react emotionally. They're going to feel something.
Visit sunshinecinema.org to help South African youth shine. Let's walk the talk.
702 was in conversation with Altron,
Celebrating 60 years of solving real-world problems
and discussing their plans to rebuild
and re-energize Johannesburg
through partnership and collaboration.
So our business is really what we call a platform and an IT services business. And what we do for our customers essentially is we use technology either on our platforms or in a bespoke way, working with our customers to really help to operate their digital infrastructure, to optimize their digital infrastructure, and really to transform their digital infrastructure. And within our this business, we've got a number of businesses. Netstar, probably one that you might be familiar with, which is really actually celebrated its 30 years.
Visit altron.com for more info.
Altron, a technology industry leader
Since 1965.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
25 minutes before 12 o'clock, we're going to continue with our family message feature. I'm coming to your calls in a moment. Fortune, Noma, I see you. I'll take your WhatsApps as well as we discuss navigating the world as an adult with special needs. Or maybe you are a parent to an adult with special needs. How has that journey been for you? I'd like you to share your experiences with us, please. Coming up, though, between 1 and 3 p.m. is 7:02 afternoons with Relebohile Mabotja. How are you doing, Relebohile?
Happy Monday. Good and you?
Good. What's popping, vandag?
Coming up on the show, we've got movies and what to stream. Adelaide Moyang will join us for that. And don't forget, you guys can recommend old, new, any genre for us to watch. Our travel feature, we're talking about Thai resorts and how that travel has surged since White Lotus's premiere. So we'll take a look at that. We'll be talking to Lynette
Oh my
Machiri.
God, yes.
Yeah.
You know how many people I've heard were like, I want to go visit?
Because of that.
Because of that.
Right? So we'll be chatting to Lynette Machiri, customer experience leader, about all of that. In the second hour, parenting and parents feature, we're doing part 2 of extended family parenting. We touched on it with Tulani Kunene, accredited family law mediator, as we're discussing those complexities that come with, it takes a village to raise a child, but what if now there's beef or somebody has passed on? How does that work? Dr. Chris Smith, the naked scientist, will be coming through, and then we kick off, and I'm so excited, our very first episode of the book club on 702 afternoons together with Mandy Wiener. We announced the book on Friday. The book is The Lost Love of Akbar Manzil by Shubnam Khan. It is a local fiction, and we'll be chatting briefly to the author, but more importantly, we want all of you as listeners who have read the book or started reading the book to participate. And if you'd like to recommend books for us to do in our book club, first Monday of every month, 702 afternoons at 702.co.za.
Okay, The Residence on Netflix.
Yes.
Can I recommend that?
Yes.
It's brilliant. It is brilliant. By Shonda Rhimes. It's incredible.
How many hours of my life do I need to give to this? Because I need to watch everything at one go.
Really?
Yes.
Then you won't do anything the whole Saturday.
Okay, so
Or
I need a
Sunday.
day.
You need a whole day, but I would say do 5 episodes. It's like 50 minutes per episode. Do 5 episodes one day and then maybe another 5.
No, you know what happens when an episode ends and you're like, just one more,
And then-
just one more.
Then it's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's brilliant. The Residence is just so brilliant. Shonda never disappoints. It's 22 before 12.
702.
Family Matters.
Right, let's go straight to your calls now and your WhatsApps. We are in conversation with Dipuo Morake, who's a therapist and general manager at Loghood Village, in studio with us. Let's start with you, Norma. You're calling us from Alberton. Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
I'm all right, Norma. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Mm.
Yeah, I just want to share the experience. I'm the parent to an adult
Yeah.
child with intellectual disability within the autism spectrum.
Mm.
Yeah, it's been not easy. It's a very difficult journey, and I think it was even better when she was younger. Now that she's an adult, she's 28 years old. It's very difficult because it's like she doesn't understand how her peers, her cousins, her siblings, could find job and do everything and go out as they like. And in her case, I'm very protective on that. She cannot do that. And now I feel that she's desperate to find somebody for a date to work. She wants a boyfriend, but I don't know how can she get that. But also the job, I think after she passed grade 9. She went to special school from grade 6, from age 6. up until to grade 9. She didn't pass grade 9 to go to grade 10. So after that, then we took her to a private college to do beauty therapy courses, but she battled, so they didn't make her write the examination like intake and stuff like that. She would do practicals on. After that, I tried to get her something by the salons, beauty salons, but she still couldn't cope. So she's not working now, and she thinks I'm not putting any effort for her to get job. So eventually, I've taken her to the psychologist for counseling, at least for her to have an insight. So now I can see that she's getting the insight into her limitations and capabilities, because at some stage she's also a very strong on religion, so she believes. So like on Sunday she will say, so it means like God doesn't answer my prayers because he's not providing me with job. Then I'll say to her, no, it's not that. God has his own plans. So God, maybe he's got a plan, because now I'm thinking of like finding a space within the house where she can start doing things like massages, because I think she's good in with massages, but the nails and stuff, she's battling. So yeah, it's better now. And then she would say she would be depressed and emotional and say she's worried and concerned what will happen to her and her child. Unfortunately, she got the child, of which it's a story for another day, how she got pregnant. So the child is becoming 5 years old tomorrow. So she would cry, saying that what will happen once I'm dead, what will happen to her and her daughter. So at least I think she's got an insight now into her condition, that mommy is the person who does everything. Will I cope when she's gone and stuff like that?
Yeah. Does she have any community, Norma, who understand her or are going through the same things?
It's a family. I think it's only the family that understands us. We're living in a suburb, so there's not much interaction with the community, and they're not good in friends. She doesn't have friends, because even when she was in a boarding school, there were friends by then. But after that, at some stage, I even tried to search the friends for her so that they can go out for movies and stuff like that. But when the time comes to go out with a friend, she just doesn't want to. They're very sensitive to noise. She's very sensitive to noise. She doesn't want a crowd. So, yeah, they sometimes get isolated.
Yeah, sure. Norma, thank you so much for calling us. And yeah, kudos to you for the support you've given your daughter. Fortune, I'm going to come to you in a moment. But Dipuo, any response to what Norma says? What is it that maybe she could do to help the daughter maybe understand more? I think she's doing counseling now, and that seems to be helping. But now she wants a boyfriend. Also, you don't want to be a parent that says, no, you can't. But also, you need to manage these things. It's so complex.
And protect them at the same time. Clement, I think I'm happy that they resorted to counseling. Remember, I said that they need to understand the diagnosis, the limitations, the capabilities, what they can and cannot do. And for Norma to take her to see a therapist who was able to explain that this you can do, that you cannot do, it's what we advocate for, to say, for me to be able to understand what the world has, I need to understand what is happening to me. So I am glad that they received therapy and they are having counseling. What I will suggest for Norma is that, yes, people with autism, they are very sensitive to noise, sensitive to light, sensitive to big crowds and all that. But if they are in Alberton, they can look for a protective workshop where they can start. It's very important. Maybe they start 2 days where she can go there and find a protective workshop that has people with autism, especially those that have the same symptoms that she does. And then it will make her feel at home, because then she will be surrounded by people that are the same. And then also in that protective workshop, there will be therapists that understands her needs, that will be able to remove her if it becomes too much, the noise becomes too much, if it becomes, too heavy for her. But being alone is what makes her feel like the world is passing me by. But the minute that she engages with people that are on her same level, it becomes much better.
Yeah. Fortune, you are calling us from Johannesburg. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Thank you so much, and thank you for having your guest in today. My call is purely for myself. So I was diagnosed with bipolar, and that was very dramatic in a sense because I was misdiagnosed with depression. They thought it was just depression until I went to the SADC websites because whatever it is that medication they were giving me, the antidepressants were not working. So I went to the SADC website, and they have a checklist for bipolar, of which I ticked each and every box. And I went back to my counseling psychologist, and I told him, we actually disagreed until he referred me to a psychiatrist who diagnosed me with type 2. I'm now on type 1 because it's very severe. I mean, suicide is a reality. It's not even a fantasy anymore. But how I get through it is the fact that I stick to my schedule. Whatever medication that there is must be taken at the same time every day. And sometimes I can't concentrate on anything at work. And I have declared it at work as a disability as well as with SARS as well. So I wouldn't call it a key per se, but in order to get through it, you need to make sure that you have a schedule that you stick to because there are some things such as drinking heavily that will interfere with your medication, that will interfere with your stability. You need to come to a point where you realize that you're not like everybody else. You have limitations, and some of those limitations will stop you from what we term as a good time. But unfortunately, it is what it is because getting drunk while on being medication is not advisable, especially if you're going to drive. I live alone. I'm self-dependent, but it was quite a journey to get here. There's no medication that I've not been through to, but I have a psychiatrist who's extremely committed to changing that. I was even hospitalized for 3 weeks because of it, because I burned out at work and I didn't realize what it was, and my medication were not working. But also on the family side, it took me a very long time to declare it to my family to say I'm bipolar. They always knew me as the moody person in the family, but now they know. And the reason why I didn't declare it is because of the shame that comes from it. I felt like a weakling. I felt like I wasn't good enough. Why is it that I can't handle some of the life's issues? I thought that was it. It was just it. But unfortunately, it wasn't. It was a far bigger issue that I had, and accepting it has been that much harder because I tried to deal with it on my own. Of course, I've always had a psychiatrist and a psychologist, but it is very challenging, especially when you've got to tell people around you, even the workplace now, when they go out for dinners or what have you. And I say, I can't go because at 6 o'clock I have an appointment with my medication. It's the only way I can disable. So having come to understood that and accept it was the most challenging I won't even call it side effect, but yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, sure, Fortune. I'm so glad that you found a way to just deal with it. Thank you so much for sharing your experience on how are you navigating this world and its challenges as someone who's living with bipolar. Here's a WhatsApp voice note that's come through on 0727021702.
Good morning, Clement. Thank you so much for having this conversation. I'm an inclusion activist, and I do this work precisely because of the life that I had growing up as a Black woman with albinism in South Africa. You know, when you deal with people with special needs, it's very uncomfortable because it's not something that is, inverted commas, normal, right? But I need people to think about it this way. Special needs can affect any one of us. It can be through you having a child that has special needs, or you being involved in an accident that results in you having special needs. So we need to prioritize inclusion because a thriving society is one where everyone is included. And you don't want to wait for something to get to your doorstep to realize how cruel the world can be. So let's be inclusive. Let's be aware of our bias, conscious or unconscious. Let's be aware of our ignorance and let's do better, because you want to have a soft landing if you find yourself in that situation where you or someone close to you has special needs. Palesa in Waterfall.
Yeah, Palesa couldn't have said it better. It's 11 minutes now before 12.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3215. Checked my bank statements. Payday me and rest of the month me have drastically different budgets. Urgently need to discuss this with Payday me, but I can't seem to get hold of her. She's always out on the jawl.
Recently removed from the family payroll? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Corporates that care promotes and encourages corporate leaders and all citizens to walk the talk for a better South Africa. Catch Corporates That Care this Wednesday at 10 to 9, featuring ABSA. The ABSA Corporate Citizenship Managing Executive, Dr. Stephen Zwane, will be in conversation with Bongani Bingwa. Join us every Wednesday as we highlight the efforts of companies and brands dedicated to building our country. Corporates That Care is a Prime Media Care initiative with 702 and Prime Media Outdoor. 702, let's walk the talk and make a difference together.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matriek mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
702.
Family Matters.
Right, it's 10 minutes now before 12 o'clock. I'm getting a lot of questions, Dipuo, from people who want to know how can they be of great support to their loved ones who have special needs. Any advice on what people need to do? So maybe, and this is specifically for adults maybe that are living with them, so they're not living in homes. How do you offer support?
First, they need to educate themselves about the illness that has been diagnosed. Once they know, and when I talk about not to know that the person has bipolar, but what comes with bipolar, what comes with cerebral palsy, what comes with autism, what comes with Down syndrome. And once they know what comes with those diagnoses, then they will be able to understand clearly. And also because the diagnosis does not only, like I said in the beginning, falls onto the person that has been diagnosed. It affects the whole family. The families, if need be, and if they see, it will benefit them if they can all go for therapy. So they need to attend therapy sessions. They need to accompany the diagnosed person to go to the psychiatrist visit, the psychology visit, the social work visit, whatever home, so that they can understand. And also they learn more about the medication, because people also react negatively to the medication. So the support that needs to be done is learn as much as you can about the illness and then attend therapy sessions with the person that has been diagnosed.
Yeah. Some messages coming through. One person says, "Hi Clement, while I appreciate, Clement, I appreciate the good work that the guests organization is doing. I think I am saddened by the stigma so many of us attach to various disabilities in our country. Life Esidimeni is a case in point." Another one says, "Clement, I really appreciate the effort you make to highlight and tackle issues of disability. One of my clients is blind, and your show prepared me in ways I didn't expect. She thinks that I've worked with blind clients before, but this is actually my first time counseling someone who is blind because of your show. I had better understanding of what to look out for and how to support her. Thank you for making that difference." Well, thank you, Anonymous, for that. I suppose we just want to have a conversation about us as a society, and us includes everybody. And that's why Palisa spoke about the need for inclusivity. And I think there's a need for us to have conversations even about things that do not affect the majority of us. They are still part of what is a society. And we have to talk about them. We have to offer support, because we may be the ones that have to raise someone with special needs. You may be the one that has to support a family member with special needs. Often people they are misdiagnosed. And maybe you can speak to this, Dipuo, because when a family doesn't really understand the condition, they end up coming with all sorts of things like witchcraft or
Twasa and all that.
Or you have to go Twasa. It's a calling, and sometimes it's us understanding the condition. So that education is important for the family to avoid misdiagnosis.
It is important, Clement, and families also need to know that it's rather a long road for person first to accept the diagnosis, and also to get the person to be compliant on medication. Also for psychiatrists or people that prescribe medication to get the right medication, because people that are on autism, people that have been diagnosed with bipolar mood disorder are not on the same medication, and just because it worked for A doesn't necessarily mean that it will work for B. So it is a long road that needs patience and that needs support. Support is very much important. And yes, we know, especially in our culture, that you will hear that the person needs to go and ukutwasa, the person needs unalemadluzi and all that. Meanwhile, it is mental illness or intellectual disabilities. What we are saying to families is that do whatever that you need to do. If it doesn't help, then it means because you cannot take away the culture from the people, but we're saying that look also into the Western way of it, to say that it might be mental illness, it might be intellectual disability.
Yeah, there's someone who's asking about any local village facilities around, maybe that in Kwandebele that you know of. And I think I'm going to broaden this question because this person is all the way from KwaMhlanga, who says they've got a son with mental or intellectual disability. Her name is Elizabeth. But I think it's not just people living in KwaMhlanga, in Mpumalanga. There are many
All
people in
over.
far-flung areas that do not have places like Logwood Village, for instance. What then happens?
We have, fortunately, the South African Federation for Mental Health. That's where they will have all the numbers and the databases and every contact details for all over the South Africa. So if they need help, they must try that. If not, then they can contact us at Logwood Village and we will send all the necessary communication and referrals to in whatever area they are in.
Okay, so who would you say, who must they try first?
South African Federation of Mental Health.
So South African Federation...
Mental Health.
Okay, Federation of Mental Health. Maybe what we'll do, Zintle, can you just check their website, South African Federation of Mental Health, if they have a number, and I can say it out to the listeners so that those that want to get in touch with them, hopefully they can find you places in and around your own area. Because, sometimes these services are available in the suburbs, but these people also are there in rural areas, in the townships, and I think the services are going to work. Just lastly, Logwood Village, how do people get a hold of you guys? There's some people asking for your contacts.
Yes, Logwood Village, we are at Mulder Street, just outside Krugersdorp in the West Rand. Our number is 011 659 0480.
Okay, that's Logwood Village. Thank you so much, Dipuo Morake, for making time for us. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, here's that contact for, you said it's the South African Federation of
Mental Health.
So it's 011 781 1852. That's 011 781 1852. Just give them a call, the South African Federation of Mental Health, and just tell them where you are based, what kind of support you're looking for, and hopefully they will assist in locating a facility that can be of great assistance. Alternatively, you can email them on info@safmh.org. info@safmh.org. It's going up to 2 minutes now before 12 o'clock.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
All right, coming up next is the Midday Report with Mendy Winner. How are you doing, Mendy?
I'm good. Thank you very much, Clement.
Markets have crashed. I see the Rand.
Yeah, the Rand has taken a battering. It's through 25 to the pound.
When last did we see a Rand at 25?
I think 2023.
Is it
We've never seen it at break through 2020 through
the 25 mark.
Yeah, it's the first time.
My goodness.
We'll chat to Stephen Curtis about that. He's been watching it for us. And then the ANC's NWC is meeting this afternoon to decide on the future of the GNU. Deputy President Paul Mashatile has been making comments regarding the GNU as well, saying DA ministers who showed up for work today aren't doing themselves any favours. 3 people have been killed in Soweto in apparent taxi violence. We'll get the latest from there. We'll have a look at the situation on the Vaal Dam amidst flood warnings, and then we'll wrap up the weekend sport.
All right, that's the Midday Report with Mendy Winner.
We can talk for another 2 minutes if you like.
Coming up after the news. Here's a little more information about this market crash, right? And again, we have to stress this before John Steenhuisen comes and claims, it's because the GNU may collapse without the DA. No, it's a market crash that's responding to, that's just what Donald Trump has really announced. Across the world, markets have crashed. We look at Hong Kong shares losing 13% in a single session, the biggest drop since we're told by News 24 the 1997 Asian financial crisis. China's decision to retaliate with these large tariffs on U.S. goods has also sparked concerns about a global recession. You've got the JSE losing 5% before easing losses somewhat. So that decision by Trump last week, those consequences are going to continue throughout.
And I think it's a combination of that with some domestic issues as well. I've got an answer to the question you asked me because it was in my head somewhere. But the previous highest level of 24.43 Rand to the pound was at the end of May 2023.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to really watch how the markets are gonna be reacting going forward. All right, that's the midday report with Mandy Winner. This is where we wrap up the Monday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. We'll be back with you tomorrow between 9 and 12. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Mikey Molapo. We continue leading with developments from the south of Johannesburg, where Gauteng police are yet to make arrests in a shooting that claimed 3 lives in Mofolo in Soweto this morning. It's understood the victims were shot in a car that was travelling to the Witwatersrand African Taxi Association offices. Police say the 3 men were members of the association. Spokesperson Tinsolo Sibeko says there are ongoing investigations.
A silver grey vehicle appeared and fired shots at their vehicle as it was driving from Mofolo village going to the direction of Dube. All 3 died on the scene, and at this stage we haven't arrested anyone.
Meanwhile, motorists have been urged to avoid the area and use alternative routes. In the Free State, some Dennisville residents living along the Vaal Dam